My weird entitled parents literally sold their house and then moved into my apartment, convincing me that they're only going to stay temporarily while they look for a new place to live. Well, after 3 months of dealing with this, I'm now expecting them to pay rent. And even though they're both offended by this, I absolutely refuse to back down. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out exactly how entitled some people's parents truly are, leaving the rest of us to realize, oh man, I don't think I nearly had it this bad growing up. Subscribe today if you haven't already and click the bell to turn on notifications. Let's get started. Okay, so my parents, both 58 years old, sold their house like 3 months ago. They said they were downsizing to an apartment, except they never got the apartment. Instead, they showed up at my house with all their stuff and said, we're staying here temporarily, all while they look for a place. Now, I was shocked, but I said, okay, just for a few weeks. Well, guess what? That was 3 months ago. They've made zero efforts to find a place, and they're completely settled in now. They've taken over my spare bedroom and my home office. I'm working from my bedroom now. They rearranged my kitchen. My dad watches TV in my living room all day. I even asked them when they're planning to move out, and my mom said, we're looking, but nothing feels right yet. Well, at this point, I basically said to them, okay, well, you really need to start paying rent. And that's when I told them it's going to be $800 a month, which by the way, that is like way below market value. And obviously, as you can probably guess from the title, when I said that, they were offended. My dad said to me, you're going to charge your own parents rent? And I just said to them, well, yeah, you're living in my house, you're using my utilities, you're eating my food. Yeah, you really should be contributing. But it's here that my mom started crying about how they raised me and that this is how I'm going to repay them, that family doesn't charge family and all this other crap. I said family also doesn't move in uninvited and refuse to leave. But they said, oh, we're hurt by this. I can't believe you see us as a burden. But guess what? I'm standing firm on the rent. They haven't paid yet, and it's been like 2 weeks since I asked. But my siblings are now chiming in and calling me greedy and heartless for charging our parents. But they literally have money from selling their house, like they can afford to contribute. So tell me, am I the jerk for charging my parents rent? Because right now I'm incredibly annoyed and I just don't know what to do with this. Bro, I'm not even kidding. If this happened to me, my parents would be homeless. Seriously, like they would show up to my house and I'd be like, I'm sorry, but you're not coming here temporarily. Because dude, this is not how you plan to move out. Like who's just gonna sell their house and be like, okay, where are we gonna go? Oh, I know, let's go to our kid's house and live there. They'll let us in, won't they? But like, dude, if this was me, I'd be like, nope, you're gonna sit on the lawn. You're gonna think about what you did. You're gonna get out of my face. And then by the way, you gotta get off the lawn. Please leave. Like, what are we talking about right now? You cannot just move into someone's house and be like, we're gonna stay here temporarily. We're family. You have to do that. And it's like, bro, I'm pretty sure anybody listening here probably has family members where it's like, oh, if they showed up, I would never let them in. They're weird, they're entitled, they're like gonna make my life a living nightmare. And the parents in this story, that is that person. That's the person in your life that you're like, please don't come to my house. And especially don't come uninvited. Holy crap, I don't want to deal with you. It's just drama and annoyance and just like absolute misery the entire time they're there. So personally, like this is just me speaking. I don't know if I could even last like a week of that. So the fact that you lasted 3 months means that automatically you're a better person than me because I would happily make them homeless. But yeah, dude, you're right, man. If they're gonna be staying there, like it's time to move on. You gotta start paying my rent. At this point, you're just subleasing. Like, I don't know, man. Like it's time to like get something going. So as the official narrator of this story, I would absolutely say that you're not the jerk here. You didn't do anything wrong. Your parents are trying to freeload in your house, and that is weird. That's not okay, and I just don't think that's right. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's gonna be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My roommate's girlfriend has started working from our home despite the fact that she doesn't live here. And my God, has this made me spiral down an irrational hole of just anger and angst. And honestly, at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's basically what's going on. Okay, for starters, I'm a 32-year-old female and I live with my fiance and a roommate. We're all around the same age and we live in a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. My fiance and I have the master bedroom with an ensuite bathroom, and my roommate has a bedroom and the other full bathroom. And the third bedroom, for reference, is basically like a guest room or even just like my roommate's office, if that makes sense. Now, we moved in about 9 months ago. My partner works 9 to 5 in the office. Meanwhile, I work from home. My roommate works from home maybe like 2 days a week, but otherwise they're in the field just like everybody else. The schedule changes with him working from home more in the winter, and in the summer he tends to be working away from home more as it's like an outside job. Now, he started dating his girlfriend who's like 22 years old, so we're talking like at least 8 years younger than pretty much all of us. And this happened like a couple of months ago before we moved in. And this is someone he met through his work, and she lives with her family about 45 minutes away. Now, up until like a month or two ago, she would stay over a couple nights a week, and they often traveled on weekends, and honestly, I had no problem with any of this. They would cook like maybe 2 nights a week, and they generally just stay in his room, even though we have left like the living room open to them on occasion. Well, about 3 weeks ago, the girlfriend switched jobs, and now she works from home. However, this has meant that she has spent nearly every day working from our home in his bedroom. Now, I will give it to her. She is pretty quiet, and she does not take up a lot of space. However, I gotta be honest, I'm getting a little resentful. I agreed to live with a roommate knowing that he does not work from home. Like, he's complained about the TV I have on in the background, not the volume, but the actual like show, as he like hates reality television, because apparently it's made him uncomfortable. But I put up with it because he's not here much. But with her working here, I feel completely uncomfortable. She takes meetings throughout the day, and as petty as it sounds, I'm resentful that I have to keep quiet for someone that doesn't even pay rent or utilities. And I'm gonna jump in as the narrator real quick. Holy crap, I would feel the same way, dude. Oh my god. Let's get back to it. Now, I should mention that he pays less than like a third of the rent and only like a fixed portion of the electric, as my fiance agreed to this without me knowing, but that's an entirely different issue. Trust me, we don't want to get into that. For example, last month's electric bill was $475 and he only pays $75. And sure, that was like more reasonable with him gone so much, but it's not fair when she's working here when he's not even home. On top of that, our internet isn't the fastest and I resent that I'm sharing it with her. On top of this, in the last week, they've been taking both parking spots in the driveway, so we have to park in the grass or like in the mud. Now, I know I need to go talk to him, but I wanted input before I go. She's generally quiet and they are respectful. And honestly, it doesn't make a huge difference in my life, but I think I'm annoyed in principle. So how do you handle this, or do you have any advice? Because I really need some right now. I don't think people want to hear my advice because it's not very nice. I really think you should like confront them about this. Like, why is she over there in the first place? I'm not trying to be antisocial, but I am trying to be antisocial here. Because seriously, I would walk up to her and be like, why are you here? You don't live here. And this is coming from someone that does not like confrontation. Like, I think generally I don't like confrontation, but this is one of those situations where it's like, you're invading my home. This is the place I'm supposed to feel safe. I don't want to have to entertain or be like, oh, I gotta be conscientious of, oh, that's right, the stranger in the corner. And sure, I would try to be nice about it, but like knowing myself and how private of a person I am, the second that privacy is like invaded and you step over the imaginary line that hopefully I'm putting up, that's when I transform and just become like a stoic, like, you need to leave, please leave, get out. I don't know, does anyone relate to that? Like, that's me through and through. I'm absolutely not okay with people invading my personal space. And the original poster here is absolutely going through it. Not to mention the utilities, bro. Like, it's already like, life is hard enough, dude. Everything costs so much money. You can't even travel. I hate this. Now I gotta deal with this chick sitting in the corner who's 10 years younger than me and just like using up all my internet. Like, it really is one of those scenarios where it's like, I shouldn't be mad at this, right? Like, this should be okay, right? But at the same time, it's like, no, something has to be done. And in my opinion, something absolutely needs to be done here because this isn't fair from so many standpoints, and I think you're completely justified to say something. Am I the jerk for expecting a replacement order of Girl Scout cookies that literally never came to me from a coworker I got them from? Because right now I've only got 1 box out of 3, and it seems like nobody knows where the other 2 boxes are. And at this point, I'm kind of getting a little frustrated and I don't know what else to do. Let's get started. Okay, for a little bit of info, I ordered 3 boxes of like Girl Scout cookies from a coworker who I will call Anna for the sake of the story. And for reference, she was selling them for her granddaughter. I paid for all 3 boxes, one of which was for me and the other 2 were for other people who had sent me money to get the cookies for them. Now, I was never told there would be a third-party handoff, and I assumed I would be getting them from my coworker. Well, yesterday, a different coworker who I will call Benjamin told me that Anna had given him the cookies to give to me, but apparently he took them home with his cookies, and his 13-year-old son ate one of the boxes. But then he only gave me 1 box, and that was the tag-alongs that I wanted. Benjamin then said that his son only ate 1 box of cookies, and that Anna only gave him 2 boxes total, and not the 3 that I ordered. So now I'm stuck in this really weird situation. I confirmed with Anna that she gave me 3 boxes, but Benjamin still says that he was only given 2, and I only ended up with 1, so like, how does that math work out? And the only box that I got was mine. So now I either have to replace the 2 boxes that were like paid for by other people, or just explain to them that the situation was completely out of my control. So I need to know, is it unreasonable to expect that Anna replaces it or refunds it since she handed them off to someone who wasn't actually responsible for getting them over to me? Or is it reasonable for me to expect Benjamin to replace them? Or on top of that, will that just make me a jerk over like some Girl Scout cookies? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I don't even know where to start. There's so many things wrong with this. For starters, I don't know. Why is Anna using a distributor? She's literally hired Benjamin to be like, hey, give these cookies out. I don't want to do it myself. But then Benjamin's either lying about how many boxes his stupid kid ate, or he really just did not know what he was doing, and he's like, okay, here's your box of Tagalogs, leaving 2 random boxes of Girl Scout cookies just kind of floating in circulation somewhere. What is happening? This is not that hard, dude. Anna, come to work and give me my cookies, dang it. This isn't Breaking Bad. We're not going through Los Pollos Hermanos just to get the product, dude. Just show up to work and give me the cookies. It's not that hard. It's either that or you're running a scam where you're reselling it. And the idea of that alone would be the most entertaining thing on planet Earth. I kind of want to see what a Girl Scout scam cookie ring would look like, because it would probably look as unorganized as this. I don't know. That would be really funny to see. But more to the point, no, you would not be the jerk for being hey, where's my cookies? Come on, Anna, give me my cookies. For me, I would gently palm Benjamin in the face like a basketball and shove him out of the way and go straight to Anna and be like, dude, where's my cookies? Hey, I need those, please, thank you. Because either Benjamin's hungry hippo of a kid ate the cookies and he's like, I'm sorry, I only got 1 box. And he's lying about the extra box that got eaten. Or Benjamin's innocent in this situation and Anna just doesn't know what she's doing. But either way, you deserve to get your cookies, you paid for it, it's yours. And in my opinion, you absolutely should say something. My entitled ex-boyfriend deleted all of my save files from my PlayStation 4 after we broke up, as he literally made me lose hundreds of hours in my video games. And at this point, I'm very upset and I just don't know what to do from here. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few years ago, my ex-boyfriend and I split up. And while I moved out immediately, our shared items were left behind, including the PlayStation 4. He kept trying to get back together, but honestly, I was really tired of constantly taking care of him like a child. The both of us worked, he worked from home, and all he had to do was cover his half of the rent and groceries. Oftentimes, we would go to the store at his insistence to grab some food or some snacks, and when we got to the register, he somehow, and always had a mysterious bill that ran just as we got to the store. He would make a big deal out of it, and then put me on the spot to pay in front of everyone. And by the way, he did this maybe 5 times over the course of a month. And then one day, he received a massive order of computer parts for his PC that he was custom building for gaming. Oh, and of course, he needed me to cover rent for the last month. He would also ask me, can my brother move in just until he gets a job? Well, the final straw of him asking what I had in my savings and then sending me a Christmas wish list of almost $2,500 worth of my savings really kind of set me over the edge and made me realize, okay, I gotta get out of here. Anyways, I moved out and I left him and his brother to handle that, taking myself off the lease entirely. He kept trying to bribe me and started insisting that I could have this item or that item, including the PlayStation 4. And when he said that, I accepted immediately. He also kept delaying me coming up to pick up everything that was deemed mine, but then one day out of nowhere just dropped it all off on my new porch. So I plugged in my PlayStation 4, but guess what I found when I did so? He had deleted all of my game data. We're talking hundreds of hours in my role-playing games. Literally everything. But I then notice as I go to set up my Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Crunchyroll, etc., that literally everything is logged in under his mom's name, and there's one account for each kid and a guest account. Well, I've been using the guest account for about 4 years on every service. And even though we've been broken up for a while, I have yet to be cut off. Okay, I've got to read one of the comments on this post because it just made me laugh really hard. Because someone literally said point blank, what did you see in him again? And that is hilarious to me because, dude, what did you see in him? This guy's a loser. And you've also got it right. This guy was acting like a child, dude. He would have you go and get some groceries and be like, oh man, I don't have any money. All my money went to my water bill. Oopsie doodle. By the way, you need to cover my rent, please. And my brother's moving in. Oops. Make my Christmas dreams come true with this $2,000 wish list. What are we talking about, dude? So good for you for getting out of there, man. And good for you for using those accounts. I love the fact that you're doing that. And it also sucks that he deleted all of your info off of PlayStation. And funny enough, someone actually beat me to it because I guess there is some cloud backups of your information that you can possibly get. But this happened a while ago and the original poster basically said, well, I've kind of rebuilt from here, but yeah, I'll give it a try. So dude, fingers crossed that you get your information back and you're able to get your old accounts back and all that good stuff. Because your ex is clearly a man-child and I don't blame you for getting away. My best friend tried to assume that I was hitting on her husband at her wedding, as this woman was determined to misinterpret literally everything I did. And now I'm kind of wondering if this friendship is even worth keeping around. Here's what's going on, and trust me, things are about to get really weird. Okay, so for a bit of context, I recently attended my best friend's 10-day wedding, and what really should have been a happy time has turned into something really confusing and honestly hurtful. We've been close for about 11 years now, and over the last couple of years, I moved to a different state for work. I've I've changed a bit. I'm more independent now, I'm more vocal, and I'm not as much of a people pleaser as I used to be. During the wedding, I tried to be there for everything and just go with the flow. I understood that it's her big event, so obviously things won't revolve around me, but there were small things that just kept adding up, such as constantly being told to adjust, even basic things like where to sleep. I didn't react much, but if I said anything, even just a little bit, it seemed to be taken the wrong way every time. After the wedding, she confronted me and said that, "Oh, you've changed. You're too immature and too outspoken now." She even said that I outshined her at her own wedding because people were asking about me, and that part really confused me. For example, she got upset because I complimented her mother-in-law's breakfast. Now, I'm a foodie at heart, and I said it genuinely, but she took it as me trying to make an impression and said it should have been her moment. There were also other comments from like the bride's other friends that were like, "Why are you always trying to act smart? Do you like someone here? Is that why you're trying to impress people?" Which honestly just didn't make any sense. I was just having normal conversations with people from the groom side of the family whenever they spoke to me. But now I'm also hearing that even photos are being taken the wrong way. In one of the pictures, I'm standing with her family and I just so happen to be in the center. But it's like, bro, I didn't put myself there. They called me in to join. And during important moments like welcoming in the groom, I made sure to step aside. Another thing that really threw me off was that she questioned me about being too friendly with her husband. She asked how long I've known him and why I was talking to him like that. For context, I met him a few times before, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and we've even spoken on the phone, so it's not like he's a total stranger. But honestly, I was just being normal and polite. It really felt strange to be questioned like that, as if there was some kind of like intention behind it. Especially because from like what I know, she herself is in touch with her ex even around the wedding time. So the whole thing just felt very confusing and a bit hypocritical to me. It just feels like normal things I did are being overanalyzed and turned into something negative. I understand that it's her wedding and emotions can run high, but I didn't expect things to turn into this. At this point, I feel like something has shifted between us, and I'm not sure if this is something that can be talked through or if it's already too far gone. So help me out here. How do I approach a conversation with her about this without making things worse? And how do I figure out whether this friendship is even worth trying to fix or if I should just step back? What should I do here? Okay, bro, this is not your friend. Oh my gosh, if I had red flags that you could see, I would be running around the backyard being like, dude, not a good friend. This is not a good friend, people. Like, oh my gosh, what is her problem? She literally took anything you did at this wedding and said, oh, now we have problems. It's like that Michael Jordan meme where he's like, and now I took it personally. It's like, dude, I'm just standing here existing. I'm sorry that I'm sharing the same air as you. Like, what do you want from me? Like, if you didn't want me there, then why did you invite me? Like, what are we talking about? I'm just trying to support you at your wedding because I'm your friend. We've known each other for over 10 years. Like, what's going on right now? But if you really need evidence that this friendship is just not worth it and you should kick her to the curb and find better friends, it's her implying that you have a thing for her husband on her wedding day. Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is some insecurity to the highest level. Like, if that was me and someone's like, wow, you've got a thing for my wife. I can't believe you were talking to her. I think I would also be like really confused by that because it's like, dude, I'm here for free snacks and to be like, yeah, you got married. I'm not here to try and steal your wife on, oh, you know, your wedding day. So for her to imply that about her husband is like, whoa, that is weird, lady. Get a grip. Get a grip. It is not that serious. What is happening right now? So to basically answer your question, do I think you should give this best friend of yours another try? Absolutely not, man. I would kick her to the curb and be like, see ya. I'm gonna slow fade and like quiet quit this relationship today. Because the way she treated you and the way she turned all of the other like bridesmaids against you, in my opinion, is really weird and absolutely unacceptable. My neighbors are some of the most drunk people I've ever met in my entire life, as they literally get completely hammered every single weekend in a way that's incredibly obnoxious and very loud. But the scariest part is that this is directly affecting their daughter, who is visibly being put out in a way that is kind of alarming. And at this point, I seriously just don't know how to handle this. Here's what's currently happening. Okay, so I moved into my current apartment about 7 months ago, and the neighbors directly next to me are a couple, and I'm guessing they're in like their late 30s, who have a daughter who looks maybe about 8 or 9 years old. I don't really know their names, and we've exchanged maybe 4 sentences total, but what I do know is that from Friday evening through most of Sunday, they are loudly, consistently drunk. Not aggressive and not violent from what I can tell, just that specific kind of like loud where every conversation's at full volume and nothing that comes out makes complete sense. You know the kind I'm talking about? And this part alone I really could ignore, but what I can't shake is the kid. I see her in the hallway pretty much regularly. She's always alone, often in the same clothes that she's had on the day before, letting herself in and out of the apartment with her own key. And And yeah, again, she's 9 years old. In fact, last Saturday at like 8 in the morning, I was heading out and she was sitting on the floor outside their door eating crackers from a sleeve, fully dressed with a backpack next to her. I asked her if she was waiting for someone and she said her parents were still sleeping and she didn't want to wake them up. But it was a Saturday, so there was no school. She wasn't going anywhere, but instead she was just sitting there because she knew better than to be inside. I then told her, well, you can knock on my door if you ever needed anything. And she just nodded in that way that kids do when they're being polite, but absolutely will not take you up on it. I then went back inside and I left a small bag with some fruit and like a juice box outside my door, which was gone when I came back home. Now at this point, I don't really know what the right thing to do here is. She's not in danger in any visible, like dramatic way. She's just a kid who has clearly learned to be self-sufficient around people who are not. So seriously, what should I do here? Because I'm kind of at a loss. Oh man, this is really sad, dude. I don't think I ever had a house key at the age of 9 years old. Like, I don't know, if I really think about it, I think I may have had one where it's like, oh, in case you get locked out, here's the key. And I just kind of stuck it in my backpack on like this Velcro thing. And I was like, okay, it's there, but I'll never need it. And guess what? I never needed it because I never grew up in something like this. This sounds very scary for a 9-year-old. Like, think about it for a second. Her parents are drinking all the time, all weekend, constantly. They're loud and obnoxious and clearly not looking after their daughter. Like, that is so sad. And I really feel bad for this kid. Like, I don't know, this might be one of those situations where it wouldn't hurt to reach out to someone to help out or even just to like investigate the situation. And for me, I live in like an apartment, like condo complex kind of thing. And if I saw some kid sitting on the floor outside their apartment, fully dressed up with a backpack, eating crackers, especially like right in the morning, I would be like, what is going on right now? Where are your parents, small child? What's going on? And if I also had the added information of like, oh yeah, her parents are just a bunch of drunks, then I would also be a little suspicious and be like, okay, I really hope nothing bad's happening here, but it kind of looks like something might be going on. So if I was in your shoes, I would happily risk like offending my neighbors or whatever, just to make sure that kid is taken care of. So like I would report to the necessary authorities that, yeah, there's this kid that I don't think's being looked after for like 3 days out of the week, because this just looks sketchy. You know what I mean? Like this just kind of has that vibe of like, ugh, something's just a little bit off here. And I think you as the adult have a responsibility to say something and make sure something's done about it. An entitled jerk sits right next to me and my friend as we're trying to eat our breakfast at Denny's and proceeds to shout into a speakerphone to his wife the entire time, disturbing the both of us in a way that was really infuriating. So we decided to get some petty revenge by literally returning the favor, as we moved to different booths in between this guy and shouted back to each other over the phone just so he could understand exactly how annoying he was being, which eventually resulted in this guy storming off in a rage. Here's how it all went down. 2 years ago, I was with a coworker traveling out west. Midday, we stopped at a Denny's for lunch, and the restaurant was empty. We're talking middle of the nowhere in Utah. The waitress let us pick our seats, and we sat in a corner by a window, and she took our drink orders, and within a minute, a man came into the empty restaurant, took the booth next to us, and literally started screaming into his phone, which, by the way, was on speaker. We sat there getting angrier with every passing second, as we listened to this guy argue with his wife about ticket costs on Southwest Airlines, whether his mother needing wheelchair assistance would allow them to all board early, wanting to know what the long-term parking costs were, etc. Well, his wife then has her brother join the call, and eventually they all start screaming at each other in their native dialect. My friend and I are giving this guy glares, and he just glares back and keeps shouting. So I got up, I took the booth on the other side of the man, with his booth now between my coworker and I called my coworker on the phone. He immediately understood the assignment and put it on speakerphone, with me also on speakerphone, and we started shouting at each other at full volume. We screamed back and forth, "I don't care what time it is, I'm having French toast." He then replied back, "I hope they do the thing where they give you like an extra milkshake in the metal cup." Well, the waitress comes back to our table and immediately understands what is going on. The random guy and his family are all agitated, and we can hear him yelling louder onto his phone, one hand over an ear. I'm shouting my order through the phone, and my coworker is relaying it to the waitress 6 feet away, and she literally just goes along with it and makes it even worse for this idiot. This goes on for 2 solid minutes until this guy stands up and shouts, "You guys are jerks," and finally storms out. And now we're laughing, the waitress is laughing, and after that we gave her a giant tip and we finally ate in peace. Okay, straight up, I cannot stand people who are on speakerphone and then yell into their phone. Seriously, unless you're in your car by yourself, there's no reason for me and the rest of the world to hear your stupid conversation. Like, I am not interested in what you're trying to say to your stupid family. I don't care what it is about Southwest Airlines or anything like that. Don't roll up and sit right next to my booth when I'm eating breakfast and start screaming into your phone like, dude, you could do that anywhere. You could do that outside, in your car, in the bathroom. Why are you sitting right next to me? So with all that considered, I love the way the original poster handled this. They literally gave this guy a taste of his own medicine, and clearly he did not like that very much. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister not to come to my wedding if she literally is going to keep bringing up her miscarriage? Because now it is literally dominating pretty much every aspect of my wedding planning process. And after she banned a woman from coming to my wedding just for being pregnant, I'm at my wit's end and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, 3 years ago, my younger sister, who I will call Jen for the sake of the story, had a miscarriage at 9 weeks. She and her partner, who I will call Scott, were devastated. I was there for them as much as I could be, but it was a tough time for them. A few months later, Scott left Jen, and Jen said it was because of the miscarriage. Her and Scott had a close-knit group of friends, and I found it odd that no one had checked on her, so I rang her best friend up to suggest a girls' night. And it's here that when I talked to this friend, she told me the reason they broke up. Jen had slept with someone else, and when he confronted her, she blamed the miscarriage. 9 months ago, I got engaged, and I asked Jen to be my maid of honor. But at our engagement party, Jen became inconsolable at seeing our friend's baby. Everyone's focus, including mine, was on Jen all night. I wasn't upset with her. I figured that she was imagining what all these big family events would be like with a baby, so I gave her grace. Since then, anything to do with the wedding, she always brings up her miscarriage, but only at events related to my wedding. I asked her to help me pick flowers, and she lost it when she saw baby blue roses, since she was convinced she was going to have a boy, and we eventually had to leave because of that. When we went wedding dress shopping, and she picked out a maternity bridesmaid dress and asked to try it on so that she could see how she would have looked. And when she did that, I thought to myself, okay, she's actually lost it, and had to walk away when she started stuffing a cushion up her dress. I have tried to talk to her about going to counseling again, but she is insisting that this is a normal part of the grieving process. She planned my hen party, which I was so grateful for, but I found out afterwards that she'd sent everyone a list of rules, which included no talking about pregnancy or kids, and no wearing baby blue, etc. And while I did confront her, I did it as gently as I could. I suggested counseling again and said I was there for her, but also that if she wanted to impose any other rules on anything to do with my wedding, she had to come to me first. Well, it all came to a head when one of my friends and bridesmaids announced that she was pregnant, and she told us because she would be 7 months pregnant at my wedding. After the announcement, Jen actually called her and said it would be best if she didn't come because she couldn't maintain her peace if she was forced to be reminded of the loss of her child. And at this point, I lost it when I found out. I said that she was using her miscarriage to get attention, and if she made one more demand or made a single comment about it at anything wedding related, she was uninvited. And in either case, she is no longer my maid of honor. Well, ever since then, Jen has told everyone that I dumped her from the wedding for being too upset about the loss of her baby. So, in retaliation, I've told anyone and everyone who will listen the real reason why she and Scott broke up. Half of our friends and family think that I'm a jerk, and half think that she is. I'm still horrifically angry and stuck in a place where I'm not sure if I'm rightly angry or if I should be more understanding, because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I am right there on the original poster side of things. First of all, if someone's gonna trash my name, then prepare to get trashed right back. Like seriously, you tried to do this privately, you tried to be like kind about this and understanding, but this lady literally tried to ban someone from your wedding all because they're pregnant. Like, are you kidding me right now? That is not how this works. And also, this is not some normal grieving process. She is clearly depressed or something's going on. And the fact that she's trying to like run your wedding by acting like an idiot is just so weird and just completely uncalled for. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. If she wants to fight fire with fire, then okay, that's fine by me. We can do that. But the last thing you need is someone in your wedding like this who's probably just gonna ruin the entire day. Because if she can do this during the planning process, then you better believe she could do this during the wedding itself. Am I the jerk for testifying against my brother in a custody case after he literally abandoned his child for years and only came back to try and become a father again in some kind of weird attempt at impressing his new girlfriend? Because now my family is fractured right down the middle and I'm seriously not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm a 25-year-old female and I have an older brother who's 28. Growing up, my mom spoiled him a lot and still has a habit of excusing his behavior because that's her son. But this situation has completely fractured my family and now I'm being told I'm a terrible sister. For just a bit of context, my brother was in a long-term relationship with his ex-girlfriend, who I will call Lena, who is 27 years old, and the two of them have a son together who's now 5 years old. Lena and I became very close during their relationship, and even after they broke up, I stayed involved in my nephew's life. I babysat, I helped him with school stuff, and I'm basically one of his safe adults. When my nephew was around 2 years old, my brother left. Not just emotionally, like he literally abandoned them. He moved out, he stopped helping financially, barely called, and eventually cut contact entirely after getting involved with another woman. Lena struggled a lot during that time, but she stepped up and did everything for their child on her own. My brother never paid consistent child support and would disappear for months at a time. Well, fast forward to last year, and my brother suddenly reappears, saying he misses his son and wants to be involved again. However, his first move wasn't apologizing or like easing back in. Instead, he was demanding Lena's current address and saying he was going to take legal action. Lena had moved for safety and stability and didn't want him showing up unannounced, so she asked me not to give it out. So inevitably, when my brother asked me for her address, I refused. I told him that if he wanted to see his son, he needed to go through proper legal channels and rebuild trust. He then accused me of choosing his ex over him and said I was betraying the family. Eventually, he found her address on his own and immediately filed for custody, asking for far more than he had ever been involved enough to handle. The case went to court and I was asked to testify, and I told the truth that he had been absent for years, that Lena was the primary and consistent parent, and that my brother only reappeared after starting a new relationship and wanting to look like a family man. Well, once it was all said and done, the judge ruled against him. He didn't lose all rights, but he did not get the custody arrangement that he wanted. And now my brother is furious with me. He says I should have lied or at least kept my mouth shut because we're siblings. And you know what? My mom agrees with him and keeps telling me I ruined his chance to start over and be a better father. She says that family loyalty should come before outsiders, even when kids are involved. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I don't feel guilty for telling the truth, especially when my nephew's stability was on the line. But being iced out by my mom and constantly attacked by my brother is honestly wearing me down. So am I the jerk for refusing to help out my brother and for testifying against him in court? Because I'm really not sure how to move forward from this. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong. You did the right thing. And in my opinion, you stuck with the better family instead of your crappy brother. For starters, this guy's a terrible father. He leaves for years and only once he's in a relationship, he comes back and says, I want to be a dad again. And it's like, dude, no, that is absolutely not going to happen. You're not going to get full custody, and you're not going to use this kid as some kind of prop to impress this new girlfriend that you're probably going to break up with. That's crazy and completely unacceptable. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have happily told the truth and testified against my brother, especially if I was there firsthand watching all of this take place. Literally, the original poster was babysitting and taking care of the kids, and was watching Lena struggle the entire time. And if the brother and the mom of all people want to be mad at you for telling the truth, then truly that is their problem and not yours, because that kid's safety and stability absolutely takes precedent over any kind of feelings these adults have. Am I the jerk for wanting to keep my engagement ring that my late fiance gave me before he passed away? Because right now his mom is asking for it back, and I'm simply resistant to this idea. And at this point, I don't know what to do. I'm a 36-year-old female, and I lost my fiance nearly 11 years ago in a car crash. We were both in the car, but I got out with only minor injuries, while he passed away instantly. This messed me up quite a bit, and I was in and out of therapy and support groups for years over this. Well, the support group is where I met my current partner, and he is a widower who also lost his wife to cancer, and we really understood each other's pain a lot and bonded over it. 3 years ago, we started dating, and we moved in with each other last month. I've remained close with the family of my late fiance since I lost him, and they were a great support to me in the first few years. However, his mother asked me last week for the ring that he gave me back, since I'm now seriously involved with another man. She said she wanted the ring to keep in the family, and it would mean a lot to have it. And honestly, this really upset me. The ring he gave me wasn't a family ring, and literally the ring and garnet he picked out is because those are our birthstones. I didn't want a traditional diamond. We picked the ring out together, and he saved for months to get me it. It holds a lot of beautiful memories for me, even if it is bittersweet. And I'm now at a point where I can enjoy the good memories without too much pain. Me being in a relationship now doesn't mean I have this ring gathering dust in a drawer somewhere. I wear it on my right hand now, in the same way that my partner wears his wedding ring. We both feel it's okay to honor our lost loved ones this way, and neither of us have any jealousy or negative feelings feelings over this. I mean, we even have a picture of my fiance and his wife on the wall in our living room. I told her I could understand if it had been like a family ring that he had inherited, even though that would still make me feel really weird about her asking to have it back, but it isn't a family ring. It's my ring that we picked out together, and I plan to wear it for the rest of my life. She insisted it should be back in the family, however, and that she wanted it as it was the last major purchase he made before he died. Well, I ended up hanging up on her as I was so upset, and I've been avoiding her calls ever since then. Well, my partner is angry on my behalf that she even asked this and told me that she was being ridiculous and that I should wear the ring as long as I want to. But I seriously can't help but feel that I'm being punished for finding someone to make me happy, that I was supposed to mourn him forever in her eyes. I've spoken to my parents about this too to get their insight on it, and my mom feels that maybe I should give the ring back as his mother is clearly just hurting and wants to hold on to something of her son. My dad, meanwhile, says that he can see both sides of this and that it is just my choice. But honestly, I don't know. I might be a bit too emotional over this. So am I the jerk or being unreasonable here? Because at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I completely understand where you're coming from, and no, I don't think you're the jerk. This is not a family ring. This is a ring that he bought for you specifically. So for his mom to be like, hey, you need to give that back, it's like, no, there's nothing to give back. It was never the family's in the first place. He gave this ring to you specifically, and that's the end of it. So no, you're not the jerk. I think the mom is absolutely grieving just like you are, but I think the way she's going about doing this is a little toxic and not fair. Am I the jerk for refusing to do free work for my kid's stepfather after the way he spoke about me in passing? Because right now, my ex-wife is blowing this way out of proportion, and I'm honestly very frustrated. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I'm an electrician and a union member. And for some context, my ex and I share custody of our 3 kids. Things are okay now, but the divorce last year was rough. She got remarried in August to a guy after dating for 6 months, and for the sake of the story, I'll call him Brad, even though that's definitely not his real name. Here's where the real issue kind of starts. A few weeks ago, Brad was at my daughter's volleyball game, saying stuff about how real tradesmen don't need to be in a union. He said this right in front of me, and I was wearing a shirt with my union logo on it. He works in the trades also, but just does like small non-union data network jobs. But even though he said this, I stayed calm and I didn't bite. He is self-employed and I know barely makes a profit. Meanwhile, my license also allows me to do all kinds of work at my pay rate. Well, this morning, my ex called me out of the blue. She said that a panel at one of Brad's jobs needed some work and asked if I could just swing by to check it out. She said to me, "You would only need your tools for a few minutes just as a quick favor. It's not a big deal and you would be technically working for Brad." So when my ex asked for a quick favor, I told her, well, I charge everyone the same rate, and per union rules, I can't just do a side job. It's gotta be done under my shop. She then said to me, "You're really gonna force this issue with my husband?" And I told her, he can just have his own subcontractors, or he can step up and pay me like everyone else does. Well, she is now saying that I'm being petty and that I'm creating tension, claiming that I'm just making a stink because he lives with the kids. But I told her that professionalism isn't petty, and that I don't give free labor to people who disrespect my trade. So am I the jerk for refusing to do free labor for my ex's husband, even though it's probably going to make things awkward for my co-parenting relationship? Because right now this is really messy and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk. This guy does not deserve any favors. If he's seriously gonna look at you and be like, "Oh wow, real tradesmen don't need a union," and then talk all this garbage about how you make a living, only to then turn around and be like, "Hey, can you do something for me for free?" Like, dude, I'm sorry, that is absolutely not gonna work. You can't insult someone like that and then expect them to work for you for free. Like, if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would be like, okay, I'll do it, but you need to pay me up front before I even get started my full rate. Otherwise, I'm not working for you. Because that level of disrespect is so unacceptable. And this guy literally has no business making comments about your life. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to work for free, especially for a jerk who's acting like this. Am I the jerk for not wanting to take home what my mother-in-law got my son for Christmas? Because she literally got stuff that he cannot even use as an 18-month-old child. And I'm honestly super frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother-in-law and I have a good relationship in general, but she has a history of not respecting boundaries. This year, we are spending Christmas with my husband's family, and we told our mother-in-law that we wanted to just give our son experiences, like a membership to the aquarium or going to the zoo, or a day in Legoland or something like that. Maybe he can even have like a book or two that he can unwrap, but nothing major. He has too many toys and clothing already, and he doesn't understand yet what it means to receive a gift. And for reference, my son is 18 years old. Well, my mother-in-law was beside herself that she wasn't able to give my son any gifts, so she asked for an Amazon wish list for things that she could get that we could use in the future. My husband and I spent quite a bit of time thinking about what to add to that list because we truly just don't need much for our son. So we sent it to my mother-in-law and we told her that she could choose some items from there. Well, this morning, my husband asked what she was planning to get our son because my mom asked if we could share the list with her just to get a few things from it. My mother-in-law then sends my message a text back saying I might be in the naughty list now and sent me a video of all the presents she got my son. Oh, and by the way, it was literally nothing from the list. It was a pile of huge items that she knows we don't have space for. Stuff like a car that my son can't ride on, a keyboard, a play kitchen set, tons of books, one of those Amazon iPads for kids, which by the way, we don't do screens with him, and many other things like that. I then told my husband that she can keep those things at her home if she wants to, but we are not bringing them with us. I found it very disrespectful that she bought whatever she wanted when we specifically told her we didn't want anything. Also, why ask for a list if you're going to ignore it? My husband thinks that we should bring some things just to not make his mom feel bad, but in my mind, we are just sending the message that she can do whatever she wants and that we will just be okay with it. Also, more importantly, we don't have the space for it. So am I the jerk for not wanting to take anything home that my mother-in-law got my son for Christmas? Because right now I'm very pissed off. Okay, I would be very upset too because this is so stupid. No, you're not the jerk. Your kid is 18 months old. He has no idea what's going on. So buying him all this stuff is kind of useless in my opinion. Like he's not going to appreciate it. It's just going to sit there and collect dust. He also can't even properly enjoy it or like play with it. Not to mention the fact that the mother-in-law is like, okay, well, I need a list or something. Give me an Amazon wish list so I can get him something. Only to then not buy anything on it. Like what a weirdo. This is so stupid. So no, you're not the jerk. This is honestly taking things way too far. And I think this is something that absolutely needs to be addressed much sooner than later. My mother-in-law unknowingly threw out my sourdough starter, which is the same one my now deceased grandmother gave me. And after I found out that this happened, I literally cried so hard. But now my husband has me second-guessing myself entirely, as he says I'm being overdramatic over something so mundane. And at this point, I'm not sure if I really am overreacting or if I'm justified in being upset, because right now I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I had a sourdough starter that was about 7 years old and was taken from a discard of my grandmother's starter. So it's old and it's very sentimental. And I've kept it alive through some really tough times for me. My mother-in-law came around to babysit my daughter who's 8 months old. She napped most of the time that she was here, and my mother-in-law graciously did a few loads of washing and cleaned our kitchen and floors. And for the record, I was and still am very grateful, and I thanked her profusely. But once my mother-in-law had left, I noticed the starter jar had been cleaned. I checked around hoping that she had maybe fed it and put it in a clean jar, but this wasn't the case. And I really didn't expect this to be the case as she doesn't bake and doesn't really have any idea how bread is made. My husband then got home from work and I told him I needed a few minutes. And at this point, I went into my room and I had a big cry. I was mourning the starter as it was the last tangible part of my grandmother I had left. I didn't contact my mother-in-law about it, but I needed to get it out. Well, my husband said I was being very dramatic over what is just flour and water. And while I don't think I'm overreacting, my husband has made me second guess myself. So truly, am I overreacting here? Because this honestly is incredibly upsetting. Okay, honestly, I completely understand where you're coming from. This really was the last thing you had of your grandma, and I can understand why that would be upsetting. But if I'm being completely honest, I think this is kind of your fault for not properly labeling it. Like, your mother-in-law didn't do this maliciously. She clearly was just trying to help out and clean up the house. How could she have known that this was a starter of some kind, and that instead it wasn't just some messy jar that needed to be cleaned out? Like, I completely understand you're upset, you didn't want to lose this starter, I get it. But if it really meant that much to you, then guess what? You probably should have labeled it or put it somewhere safe. Or at least like explain to her, hey, if you want to clean up, you're more than welcome to, but don't touch this specific jar. This is my sourdough starter that I got from my grandma, and like it's very sentimental, so don't touch it. Or something like that. Like, at least make that kind of explanation so she can know, oh, hey, there's that jar. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it alone. Because seriously, how would she know not to touch it? So no, you're not overreacting by being upset, but hopefully in the future when you do this again, you put labels on these jars and you try to keep it in a safe space. Because otherwise this absolutely could happen again, and that would be really tragic. My psycho roommate demands that I change my eating habits to be vegan only, as she is literally banning me from using any of the apartment's kitchen appliances unless it's used for specifically a vegan meal. And despite the fact that I've tried to talk to my roommate about this and find some kind of compromise, she has stubbornly said that I have no choice in the matter and I absolutely have to listen to her, putting me in a situation where honestly I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So I recently moved into a new apartment with a vegan roommate who I will call Sarah. We split the rent 50-50 and the place came fully furnished, including all the kitchen appliances. Now, at first, things were really chill and just completely normal, but then Sarah started making some pretty unreasonable demands. She told me I'm not allowed to use the oven, the stove, or even the microwave for any non-vegan food. Apparently, she's worried about cross-contamination and her food coming in contact with any animal products. Look, I totally respect her lifestyle choices, but I'm not vegan myself. I didn't sign up to have my diet policed or to be banned from using appliances that I'm paying for too. When I tried to talk to Sarah about it, suggesting maybe we could designate certain cookwares as like vegan only or work out a schedule for kitchen use, she just shot me down. She said if I want to live there, I need to adhere to her vegan standards in all the common spaces. She seriously expects me to completely change my eating habits and only store vegan-approved food in the fridge that we share. But I told her I thought that was completely unfair and it was disrespectful to impose her beliefs on me like that. We both pay equal rent, so I should have equal access to the amenities. She called me selfish and intolerant for not respecting her boundaries. And right now I'm at my wit's end. I don't want to create a hostile living environment, but I also refuse to be dictated to about what I can and can't eat in my own house. It's not like I'm shoving burgers in her face. I just want to be able to cook my own meals without a guilt trip. So seriously, am I the jerk for pushing back on my roommate's demands that I follow her vegan rules in our shared kitchen? I feel like my own rights and comfort matter too, because right now I'm honestly frustrated and I don't know how to handle this. Okay, first and foremost, this is some crazy behavior. If Sarah's got some like specific dietary restrictions, then congratulations, that's for her to deal with and not you. She has no right to ban you from doing things in the kitchen because you share that kitchen. You're paying the rent just like anybody else, which means that you have every right to use the kitchen appliances however you want. So for her to sit there and be like, I don't want any cross-contamination, like, dude, that's totally understandable, but that is your responsibility. It's not up to the original poster to be like, okay, let me make sure I just only bring vegan-approved food in here, I guess. Like, no, I'm gonna bring whatever I want in there and there's nothing you can do about it. So I know for a fact, if I was in your shoes and I was dealing with a roommate like this, I would carry on like normal. They can't evict me, they can't do anything about it, and the fact that they're being so aggressive and hostile already, in my opinion, is more than enough proof that they are completely unreasonable and there's no negotiating anything with them. So I would carry on like normal and do whatever I want, because them expecting you to go vegan just to eat in your own kitchen is crazy behavior, and that is not something that you should put up with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for trying to find out why I was blocked by 2 of my friends? Because after I got the cold shoulder and literally no information, I started to get really pissed off and really just wanted to know what was going on, putting me in a situation where it really made me look like the bad guy, despite the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. And at this point, I'm frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I was recently sent a message out of the blue from a friend, simply stating, I wish you the best, but I have to block you. And yeah, this really caught me by surprise, as only a few days ago, we called and everything seemed perfectly fine. And while it is true that we are far from how close we used to be, we were still friends. I was extremely worried. I don't know what was happening and I wasn't sure if I somehow did something wrong or something is wrong on their end. So I decided to reach out to a friend who is very close to this person. I've not talked to them in a couple of months, but that is not unusual with me. I sent a message simply saying hi, explaining the situation, and asking if they knew anything, but I didn't get a response. After a couple more days, I went to check and I saw that this person had read the message. I decided to reach out again, highlighting that I'm very stressed out about this and that any sort of response would be helpful. But even still, yet again, I got no response at all. I left this for a while, and sure enough, when I came back, it was also read, but still with no response. At this point, I was desperate. I said that I was not sure why I'm being kept in the dark, but this is really affecting me. If there's a problem with me, I should at least have some kind of understanding of what I did. And predictably so, they read it, but still never responded. it. I then messaged one final time, saying that I was getting fed up. At this point, I feel like you are intentionally hurting me. I felt it was pretty crappy to just ignore, knowing full well that I was so worried and stressed out. It's a completely avoidable thing. Well, finally, later on in the same day, I got a message from both of these people. Both of them basically saying that I should have just let it go, and that I don't need to talk to the original person at all, and that apparently I was harassing them. I got a sort of explanation, simply saying that they were moving on, and they did not need me, and that's that. They claimed they had no animosity, but they were still moving on. But even still, they think it was very wrong of me to try and find out what was happening. And while I understand I should not have gotten short with them at the end, I truly don't think I did anything wrong. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I think these people are terrible friends and you are absolutely dodging a train. First of all, you have every right to find out. You literally were talking with this person the other day and everything was fine. So for them to turn around and be like, I'm sorry, but I'm blocking you. I can't do this anymore. Like, that is stupid and so crazy in my opinion. There's just no good excuse. It doesn't make any sense. It really is just immature and in my opinion, just super crazy. And I'm right there with the original poster. I can't stand when people give the cold shoulder, especially when it comes to something that they initiated. They literally never explain anything that you did wrong, and they're just trying to be like, we're trying to move on with our lives. Please stop bothering us. You should have let this go. But it's like, dude, you literally set the hook and said, oh, I'm blocking you and I'm not going to explain why. See you later. Have fun wondering what you did. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you like in 8th grade? Like you can't have an honest conversation? Because from the sounds of it, the original poster didn't do anything wrong. They were literally still friends with this person just a few days ago. Things were fine, and it's like, okay, we're still friends, even if we're not as close as we used to be. So for them to suddenly be like, I wish you the best, but I just have to block you, that shows a distinct lack of emotional maturity, and that is so annoying. So no, you're not the jerk. I think this is such stupid behavior, and I think you had every right to find out what was really going on with your friend, because their behavior is dumb and you didn't deserve that. Am I the jerk for walking away from my register at work, all because my relief cashier refuses to show up on time, as I'm constantly expected to work off the clock, while my relief cashier doesn't ever get in trouble for being late, and I'm honestly sick of it and I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 35-year-old female and I work as a liquor store cashier at a grocery store. My shift usually ends at about 3:30 in the afternoon, but management expects me to stay until my relief arrives. The problem is that my relief consistently clocks in like 20 minutes late every single time. Meanwhile, I have never called out or arrived late myself. I've been dealing with this issue for about 3 years now. I've explained to each of my relief cashiers that their tardiness forces me to stay late, and while they do apologize to me, nothing ever changes. Also, I have reasons I need to leave on time that are frankly just none of their business. Yesterday, my relief once again wasn't there at 3:30. So at 3:38, with a long line at my register, I straight up told the customers somebody will be with you momentarily. I then informed the customer service that I had stayed as late as I could and there was a line waiting, but my relief wasn't there as usual, so I just went ahead and left. Management is well aware of this ongoing problem, by the way, but they don't do anything about it. No write-ups, no discipline, literally nothing. I've spoken to the store director and it was just completely brushed off. It's disrespectful to me and my time. Since they know the issue, management should schedule my relief to arrive by 3 o'clock in the afternoon so they're actually there by 3:30, and they should face consequences for their chronic lateness. It shouldn't fall on me to work extra unpaid time on a daily basis, all because they can't be professional. So am I the jerk for walking out when I'm like really needing to leave? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Oh man, you've been dealing with this for 3 years. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Even after 3 months, I would have lost my mind, dude. I would have been like, okay, I'm absolutely finding a new job if you don't do something about this. Because what do you mean I've got to stay after late and not get paid for the time I'm staying out late? Like, I'm not going to work off the clock. This is not a charity. I work here so I can make rent and have a life outside of work. So I don't think you did anything wrong. This should not fall on your shoulders. You should not have to suffer just because your coworkers don't care. Because management absolutely knew about this. And if they were good at their job, they would have fixed this a long time ago. Am I the jerk for quietly leaving a group plan after being left out of any of the group conversation and any of the plans? Because right now they're trying to twist this against me in a way that makes me look bad, despite the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. And now I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I want to start off by saying that I'm not sure if I handled this the right way, so I'm here kind of just for an outside perspective. Last weekend, a small group of 5 friends made plans to meet up for dinner and then walk around a local street fair. The plan itself was casual, but it was something that we had all agreed on earlier in the week. So So I cleared my evening for it, and the day of, we were coordinating through a group chat. I then messaged asking what time we were meeting and where exactly, but no one responded. About 15 minutes later, I saw two people in the chat sending memes to each other, so I figured that they had seen my message and would answer soon, but they didn't. I then sent a follow-up about 20 minutes later, asking if any of the plans had changed, but still I got nothing. At that point, I assumed that maybe everyone was already together and just forgot to loop me in, but I didn't want to jump to any kind of conclusions. I went ahead and I drove to the general area we talked about, thinking that I'd figure it out when I got there. So I parked, I walked around for a bit, and I kept checking my phone. Eventually, I saw on social media that two of them were already at a restaurant nearby. I didn't want to cause a scene or make things awkward, so instead of confronting anyone, I just went home. I didn't announce that I was leaving or send a passive-aggressive message. I figured it was better to cool off and talk about it later. The next morning, one friend messaged me asking why I ghosted the plan and said it was rude to disappear without saying anything. I explained that I had asked multiple times for details, and I didn't get a response. Plus, I didn't feel comfortable showing up uninvited once it seemed like things had already started without me. They said I should have spoken up more directly, and that leaving without saying anything made it look like I didn't care. I said it felt like I was already being sidelined, and I didn't want to beg for attention, and now the group feels a little tense. Some friends think I overreacted and should have just walked up to them anyways, while others say it's reasonable not to chase people who aren't responding. I didn't intend on punishing anyone. I just didn't want to force myself into a situation where I clearly wasn't being included. So am I the jerk for quietly leaving instead of pushing my way into the plan? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, if I'm not invited to something or it looks like I'm being left out, then that is probably going to be the last time I spend any kind of significant time with any friend group. Holy crap, I read the writing on the wall immediately and I say, oh, okay, these people don't actually like me and they don't actually want me there. So I'm not going to waste my time showing up if I'm not explicitly welcome. Also, it is so confusing to me that your friends are trying to be like, why didn't you reach out? How dare you leave and ghost us like that? It's like, dude, you are looking for reasons to complain. You're trying to make me the bad guy when I didn't do anything wrong. The original poster messaged in the group chat. They said, hey, where are we meeting up? What's going on? And nobody responded. That's not their fault. That is literally all the other people's fault for not reaching out and being like, oh, we're over here, come and join us. And instead of owning up to it as bad planning or whatever, they're trying to make you look like the bad guy as if you did something wrong, when it was pretty obvious they didn't want you involved. They didn't tell you what restaurant they were going to. You literally had to do social media detective work just to know what's going on. And I don't know about you, but if a friend acts like that, that's a clear indication that, yeah, they do not like me and they're not actually my friend. Because any real friend would be like, oh my gosh, hey, I'm sorry that we didn't get back to you. This is where we're at. I'm saving you a seat. Come and join us. Or something like that. Instead, they just kind of left you out of the loop and then was like, oh wow, you left because you didn't feel included? That's really toxic. But in reality, it's the other way around. So no, you're not the jerk, and these supposed friends are not good people. And in my opinion, you can find much better friends than this. My boyfriend said that I had 1 week to move out of his house after we had an argument. But after I called him on his bluff and got out of there, I'm starting to wonder if maybe I overreacted here. Because right now, I can't help but feel that I made a mistake, and I seriously am not sure what else to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I've been dating my boyfriend for about 5 months now. During this time, he consistently pressured me to get him added to the guest list of a wedding that I was a bridesmaid in, which took place earlier this month. And just for the record, he didn't know anyone who would be attending this other than me. This wedding started being planned over 2 years ago, and I felt weird asking to have him added to the guest list. So I kept telling him that I don't think it would be possible, and he kept getting angrier about it. And let me tell you something, he was not happy when I left on the day of the wedding. Now, the wedding went great, and I wound up having quite a bit of champagne since I was with friends and we were celebrating. By the end of the night, I didn't feel safe to drive home, and this was about a 40-mile drive. So I called him to let him know that I was going to stay with my friend, who I will call Lauren, and I would be home in the morning. Well, he was very upset that I wasn't coming home, and we got into a fight over the phone. At one point, while I was on the phone outside the venue, a group of people walked by and they stopped to ask if I was okay, and when my boyfriend heard me responding to them, he got even more upset and started demanding to know who I was talking to and saying, "Who are you talking to? I'll take them out right now." A couple minutes after this, Lauren came outside, and after listening to a few minutes of my conversation with my boyfriend, she gently took the phone and calmly explained to him that she was taking me home and putting me to bed, and that I would talk talk to him in the morning. When I got home earlier the next morning, he had locked me out of our bedroom and would not let me in. When he finally came out, he coldly said to me, "You have 1 week to get out of my house." And then he ignored me for the rest of the day. This really freaked me out. So I talked to Lauren, who said that I could stay in her guest bedroom while I looked for a new place to live. When he realized I was actually going to leave, he backtracked and told me to stay and said that we could work on a relationship, but I decided it was better for me just to move out. The day I moved out, he was being very physically menacing and trying to block me from packing. Things got so bad that I wound up needing to call a police escort so that I could safely gather my things and leave. The day after I left, he said that I had 5 days to mail his house key back through registered mail with a $10,000 insurance policy on the parcel. And if I didn't do this, he would send the police to my workplace. So honestly, am I overreacting for feeling unsafe and leaving this guy? And also, am I the jerk for not giving him an invite to the wedding? Me being there without him is what really brought all of this to a head. And I feel like it's my fault for not finding a way to get him invited, since he likes to spend as much time with me as possible. He has also gotten upset in the past when I've wanted to hang out with friends without him and kept me from doing it. He sticks around the house every day as his work schedule is hybrid and flexible until I've left for work, and then makes sure that he's back home again before I am, and gets upset if I want to stay up and read or watch TV instead of going to sleep with him when he's ready for bed. And before anyone says it, yes, I totally understand that I moved in way too soon. I first met him almost 3 years ago, and we became casual friends, but only started officially dating 5 months ago. I thought I had a good sense of what kind of person he was. My lease was ending, and he asked me to move in, and I took him up on it because I thought I knew him, but his behavior definitely changed a lot after I officially moved in with him. But I still shouldn't have moved in with him in the first place because it was way too fast. So am I in the wrong? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, this guy is a train wreck. Trust me when I say this, you're not the jerk, you're not doing anything wrong, because this guy sounds like a controlling freak. Like, the only reason he wanted to be at that wedding was so that he could police who you do and don't talk to. Like, this guy's even saying, "Oh, you either give me back my house keys, or I'm gonna send the police to your place of work." Like, dude, get a life, what are we talking about right now? So yeah, you didn't do anything wrong, your boyfriend was a complete weirdo, and it's probably for the best that you got out of there sooner than later. Did I overreact by moving out after my ex-roommate admitted to me that he put grass in my pillow just to prove that I wasn't allergic to it? Because this entire situation escalated in a way that was completely inappropriate and honestly incredibly stressful. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. About 4 months ago, I was living in a 4-bedroom house in college with 4 other people, 3 girls and 1 guy. The guy was dating one of the girls, and at the time, I genuinely thought they were my best friends. The couple, before we all moved in together, had literally asked me that when they get married to be the maid of honor at their wedding. So this wasn't just a roommate situation to me. They were my best friends and my friend group. Well, things started going downhill at the beginning of summer after I said I didn't feel comfortable mowing the lawn because I'm allergic to grass. When I'm around it, my eyes swell up, I get super itchy and red, and my skin normally gets quite itchy too. I wasn't trying to get out of doing chores, but I did tell them that come winter, that I will literally do a lot of the shoveling as I don't mind the cold and I love the snow. For the last few weeks I lived there, I was waking up every morning with red, itchy, swollen eyes, and I just assumed it was something in the house. One of my roommates, the girlfriend of the guy, knew exactly how bad it was. She literally went to Walmart with me to buy eye drops because my allergies were so bad. I had also started taking my allergy medications twice a day. I had an air purifier going in my room at all times, and I was either showering or wiping myself off every night before bed and was still waking up with red, itchy eyes. Eventually, I decided to vacuum my pillows to try and get rid of whatever was triggering it. While I was carrying the vacuum upstairs, the guy I live with asked if I wanted to hear something funny. I said sure, thinking it was going to be some harmless joke, but instead, he casually told me that he had put grass in my pillow to prove that I wasn't allergic. And when he said this, I just froze. He knew about my allergy. His girlfriend knew too. She had watched me suffer for weeks and still knew about it. Realizing that someone I trusted intentionally went into what we all deemed as our private spaces in the house, namely our rooms, and did something to intentionally harm me has been definitely a shell-shocking experience to say the least. I then decided to move out after that, and things somehow got worse. The first time I went back to the house to move all my belongings into my bedroom and install a keypad lock on my door, the guy was the only one home and called the cops on me for trespassing, even though I was still on the lease at the time and legally allowed to be there. The second time I went back was to move all of my things out completely. I had a lot of people there with me, by the way, to help me move out, as I wanted to be out of there as quick as possible. During that visit, they called the cops again, and this time it was for harassment because apparently my dad called the guy a complete wimp. Now that obviously wasn't the best move on my dad's part, but no charges were filed and nothing came of it. Now I do know this is only from my perspective and I'm trying to stay as neutral as possible, but I also want to share that they never apologized once to me and even tried to validate their actions by saying I made them uncomfortable by saying I could hear them talking in their room while I was in my bathroom, even though the two rooms literally share a wall. I've now been taken off my lease and have been going to therapy for the last 4 months. I also now live alone in a studio apartment. I just needed to let this out somewhere because I literally am still just so confused as to how he even thought this was okay on any level. So what would you have done in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly still really pissed off. Okay, I'm just gonna say it, this is some crazy behavior. This guy knew about your allergy and still tried to be like, oh, you don't like the grass, huh? Well, I'm gonna prove you wrong by putting grass in your pillow and making you have an allergic reaction every day. Let's see how you like it. I knew you were faking it. Meanwhile, his stupid girlfriend is literally going with her all over the place to get eye drops and like getting medicine, clearly not relaying this information to her idiot boyfriend. Like, what is wrong with these people? These people are actually stupid. And I say that as nicely as I can because holy crap, there's not a single brain cell bouncing around inside of that skull. If someone says they have an allergy to something, this is not a chance for you to be like, oh, I can't wait to prove you wrong. I'm gonna show that you're actually faking it and you don't want to actually just mow the lawn. This is like trying to prove someone doesn't have a food allergy by intentionally giving them like, I don't know, shellfish or something like that. Like, why would you do that to someone? Like, why not just take it at face value and be like, oh, I totally understand. I'll take care of mowing the lawn and you can shovel the driveway or something like that. Why go on this weird crusade to be like, oh, I knew you were faking it. I've been putting grass all over your bed. Man, I can't believe you fell for it. What an idiot. But the icing on the cake here that proves these people are super toxic is this guy calling the cops on you every time you tried to move out. Like seriously, this is some stupid behavior. You're literally just trying to leave and this guy's making it as hard as possible. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would have left as well and not looked back. Because anybody who agrees with this guy and somehow aligns with his idiot decisions, in my opinion, is just as bad and is definitely someone I would never want to associate with. My entitled coworker literally changed my work and made me look bad in front of my bosses, as my bosses confirmed that this was going to go on my permanent record. But instead of taking this sitting down, I decided to get some revenge by literally outing my coworker who tried to screw me over, as I shared screenshots and very hard evidence proving that he tried to sabotage my job, resulting in my coworker inevitably getting fired. And now I'm kind of wondering if I made the right call because this situation has been very frustrating. Here's what happened. I'm a 32-year-old male and I work as a mid-level ops manager at a logistics company. It's nothing fancy, it's mostly spreadsheets, vendors, and trying to keep the warehouse from turning into absolute chaos. We had an internal opening for a team lead role, and my coworker, who I will call Dylan, has been loudly campaigning for it for months. He's the kind of guy who talks about ownership and visibility a lot, and he's always in the comments on Teams acting like he's the only adult in the room. 2 weeks ago, we had a pretty ugly shipping mess. A vendor missed a pickup, and then we got hit with a last-minute order that needed to go out the same day. So I stayed late, I called around, I moved some staff, and I fixed it. And while it was annoying, I ended up solving it. The next morning, my director calls me in and says my weekly report shows that I approved an overtime shift that I wasn't authorized to approve, and also that I marked the vendor as confirmed when they weren't. Basically, it looked like I caused the whole thing. Now, I was confused because I didn't do that, but when I pulled up the report, the numbers were changed, like literally edited completely. We use a shared template, but we each have our own tab. And somehow my tab had notes added that I never wrote, and a couple fields were altered. Well, I checked the version history, and I saw edits from Dylan's account at like 11:47 p.m., literally on the night that I stayed late. Mind you, Dylan wasn't on shift. He also messaged me earlier that night by saying, hey, if you need help with a report, just send me a message. But I didn't respond because I was busy. Now, I confronted Dylan privately, and he acted surprised, saying that he must have clicked the wrong tab while trying to help me out, and that he didn't realize it would lock in. But the edits made were very specific, and they just so happened to make me look incompetent and him look like the savior because his tab had a note like flagged risk to leadership in it. Also, he never told me that he touched my stuff. He only apologized after I showed him the history. And even then, it was this half apology like, oh, sorry you feel blindsided. I felt sick about it, and my director told me it was going on my record unless I could explain it. So I exported the version history, I saved screenshots of Dylan's edits, and I sent a short email to HR and my director saying that I believe my my work was altered without permission, and I wanted it documented. I never asked for him to be fired. I just wanted my name cleared. Human Resources interviewed the both of us, and apparently other people had similar issues with him fixing their work. And as a result, he got terminated last Friday. Ever since then, half the team is acting like I snitched and ruined his life. And one guy told me that I should have handled it like a man and not run to Human Resources. Dylan even texted me from a new number saying that I'm a bitter loser who couldn't compete fairly. And now I'm sitting here thinking, like, did I overreact here? Should I have seriously just taken the hit and moved on? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, no, you didn't do anything wrong, dude. This guy was trying to make you look bad and literally sabotage your job. Like, this was gonna go on your record for this company. That is absolutely unacceptable, and you're under no obligation to accept that in the slightest. Like, this guy was trying to damage your reputation and your job. He literally was trying to get you in trouble so he can move up the ladder while you get taken down. Like, that is not okay. So anyone trying to be like, oh, you should have just taken it like a man, like, I'm sorry, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Because if I was in that situation, I would snitch until I turned blue in the face. I would be like, oh yeah, Dylan did this specifically, here's all the screenshots. Because I'm not gonna let my job be in jeopardy. Like, are you crazy? That is unacceptable. I don't think so. So good for the original poster. You absolutely did the right thing. Dylan deserved to be fired, and that's not your fault. That's literally his, as he's the one that's been going around screwing with people's work just to make them look bad and make him look like some kind of savior. That is super toxic. That's not okay. And I don't blame you for reporting this guy or for him getting fired. Because at the end of the day, this was probably gonna happen whether you stepped in or not. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk at the gym literally tried to kick me off of equipment that I just got on, all because he said he was planning to use it next. But despite the fact that my gym is first come first serve for all the equipment, this guy refused to take no for an answer and was incredibly annoying. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened yesterday and I'm still annoyed. I go to the gym after work at around 6 o'clock p.m., which is peak time, so it's always crowded. I got there and I managed to grab one of the squat racks, which is normally impossible at that hour. So I'm warming up, I'm about to start my actual sets, when this dude comes up and asked how many sets I have left. I said to him, well, I just started and probably have about like 20 minutes. When I said this, he got this attitude and says to me, well, I've been waiting for a rack for like 15 minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so have other people. I got here when I got here, like, what do you want? He then said to me, I was watching this rack and I was gonna take it after the last guy, so technically I have dibs. I told him that's not how the gym works at all. It's first come first serve on the equipment and he knows that. He then said that I was being selfish and I should just let him go first since he was waiting longer. Well, I just ignored him and I started my workout, but he stood like 5 feet away from me just staring at me the entire time, letting out these big sighs and checking his watch dramatically and shaking his head. After my third set, he came back and said to me, are you done yet? Some of us have actual training programs we need to stick to. But I said to him, I'll be done when I'm done. And after that, he then called me like a bunch of names under his breath. And you know what? I ended up taking extra time between sets just out of spite, because if you're going to be a jerk about it, then I'm absolutely going to be taking my full rest periods, whether you like it or not. Man, it is crazy to me that people actually act like that in a gym because, dude, are you not self-aware of how weird you're being? Like, first off, this guy's talking to someone in the gym, which is something I would never do, but he's also hovering over this equipment and trying to act like a complete jerk. Like, just because you were waiting around doesn't mean you're somehow, like, obligated to get this equipment. Like, are you kidding me right now? So I love the fact that the original poster stretched this out as long as possible. It feels like some fantastic instant karma, and honestly, it is so deserved. My entitled ex-girlfriend got really pissed off at me when I wouldn't pay for all of her expenses after we took a trip together, as I had to remind her that we are no longer a couple, which means I'm under no obligation to pay for everything. Here's what happened. To start things out, my ex-girlfriend and I split up a while ago and genuinely wanted to be friends. It wasn't a messy breakup or anything like that. It was just distance that honestly ruined it. Now, we had the amazing idea of taking a trip together. In my right mind, I'd have been against this, but I had also just started some new medications which stopped me thinking straight, and I was just focused on how much I enjoyed it when we traveled together. She would book the hotels as we went, and we'd agreed to split the cost. I also wound up paying for pretty much everything there, namely the food, admissions, transport, etc., as it was just easier doing it that way when on the move. And some such admissions were the equivalent of around $67 US and only accepted cash. After the trip, which wasn't great by the way, the first thing she did was text me just to remind me that I owed her for the hotels, which was before I had even gotten on my flight back. And I said no problem. I'm gonna work out what I owe with the admissions commissions off, etc. Her response was to say, "You're not gonna pay me because I don't love you anymore? Wow, that's pretty funny." Now, typically, I don't mind buying things for people at all, and I wasn't even going to mention the food and the drinks and all this other stuff, as I generally do better than she does. But that comment was just so unnecessarily rude. I went through my expenses for the trip and got the exact amount of everything that I'd spent on her. I copied the receipts, etc., and then I went back and I said, "That's exactly right. We are not in a relationship at all. Turns out I spent the cost of the hotels and then a little bit more, so I think we're about even." And what I said was true, and I didn't send her a penny more, because she really expected me to pay for everything, since that's what I've always done when we were together. Well, ever since then, she hasn't really spoken to me, and honestly, I think I'm completely fine with that. Okay, I don't blame the original poster for a second for taking this route, because holy crap, what in the world is going on? First off, the fact that you went on some kind of trip with your ex-girlfriend is a huge step that I would never be able to take. Like, I don't know about you, but that's just not something I would ever, even try to trifle with. So the fact that you did that is honestly kind of blowing my mind. But the fact that she was actually thinking you would pay for everything, just like when you did when you guys were in a relationship, that is weird. That is so strange in my opinion. And it's also super entitled. Why would she act like that? You guys are not a couple anymore. So good for you for putting her in her place and saying, okay, this is absolutely not gonna happen. I'm gonna pay for what I owe, and literally that's it. Because it sounds like she was trying to take advantage of you, and that is really unfair. Am I the jerk for canceling on going to a family trip after I realized that I was expected to literally pay for everything? Because now my family's making it awkward and saying that I made this trip about money, despite the fact that they were going to take all of mine to pay for everything. And at this point, I'm honestly pissed and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my family planned a weekend trip and asked if I wanted to join. Now, I agreed because it sounded nice, and I assumed that everyone was contributing. But as planning continued, it became pretty clear they expected me to handle the hotel booking, the rental car, and most meals because I earn more than they do. Oh, and by the way, nobody asked me directly to do this. They just kept saying things like, "Oh, you can put it on your card and we can figure it out later." But in the past, the word later never came around. Eventually, I finally asked them, what would the cost split actually be? The conversation then got awkward and someone joked that I should treat everyone since I'm doing really well financially. And that's the moment that made me realize I was being invited more as a sponsor than a participant. So I straight up told them that I'm no longer going. And now they say that I ruined the trip and that I made money an issue when it should not have even mattered within family. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do because this really pissed me off. Holy crap, I would be so mad if I was the original poster. You mean to tell me they only invited you to be a part of this trip because they thought, oh wait, he can pay for everything. He makes so much more money than the rest of us. He'll be okay with it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm absolutely not going to sponsor your stupid trip. The fact that they're trying to be like, oh yeah, just put it on your card. We'll figure it out later. That is absolutely code for I'm never going to pay you back. You'll never see any money out of me. And no, it wasn't in writing, so you can't prove we agreed to anything. That is some crazy talk, dude. There's no way I would ever put up with that. So no, the original poster is not the jerk. I don't blame you for backing out, because if they really wanted to go on that trip, they would figure it out themselves, which in my opinion, that plan should not include any money out of your bank account. My coworkers and my manager are incredibly greedy and very lazy, as they're making my life at this restaurant incredibly difficult based off of their bad behavior. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I work at a breakfast buffet place, and my days were cut down to 2 after going to college. I had to leave an hour early on 2 days for class and got management approval, and my 2 coworkers didn't mind and said they knew how important college is and even made sure I was leaving on time. I let them take the cash tips and didn't touch that. However, the manager put equal credit card tips, and they were so pissed and complained. I told management they can take the higher percentage, but instead of doing that, he just cut my days. Meanwhile, one of my coworkers would take coffee orders, be given cash, and wouldn't even ring up the order and just pocket the cash. I've noticed multiple times, and of course I told management, but they didn't care. They seemed lazy to even investigate it in the first place. And then last week, something similar happened. The first day, there was a $10 bill on the tip jar and it disappeared. And my coworker said he put it there so guests can put tips, and I honestly believed him. But the second day, there was like $30 in the tip jar, and I kept watching because I never saw him put anything in it. But towards the end of the shift, the money disappeared. I then told him I saw there was money there, and he said he never noticed anything, that he put $5 himself there, but that was it. Then after a half an hour or so, he said he found $30 on the floor and split it. And I'm seriously so done with these people because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this sounds like one of those places where all of them have worked there for like 20 years, and they now gang up on any new employee just to chase them off. And that includes the management. Like, good lord, that is so stupid and annoying. Think about it for a second. These people are not only stealing tips, but they're also sabotaging your attempts at having like steady work and like days you can come in and do a shift. So if I was in your shoes, I would start looking for another job. Screw these people. They clearly don't have your best interests in mind, and I think you can absolutely do better than this. My parents, even to this day, still rant and whine about my college rejections, despite the fact that I'm literally pushing 30 years old. Because every time I get with them, they're always talking about this, and I'm honestly about to lose my mind over it. Here's what's going on. So I'm currently back in my hometown for Christmas for a few days, and one of the first things my parents talked about while we were getting ready to go to our relative's house was how my cousin Jenny got into Stanford. They were acting like she's a celebrity, while also just low-key throwing shade at me and acting like I wasted their money back in high school because I didn't get into any Ivy League school, and so now they have nothing to brag about with their relatives. But here's the thing, I'm literally 28 years old. My mom even remembers down to the detail how many colleges I got rejected from, my SAT scores for each section, my extracurricular activities, and even which of my friends got into which colleges. At one point, my dad even said, "Is it too late for you to consider computer science? You will make way more money than you make now." And then my mom said, "You know, one of my other relatives got into Harvard early action, but you know what? You didn't get into Harvard because you didn't apply yourself in high school. I told you should have done more extracurriculars." Now, I didn't actually answer because I don't care. This was like 5,000 years ago. I have a career, and I graduated from a college that just isn't prestigious enough for them because it's not an Ivy League or Stanford level school. And while I'm not rich, I'm doing just fine. Most of the people I knew from high school who got into Ivy League schools aren't exactly all billionaires either. My parents are older immigrants, and even though I moved out like 10 years ago, they still act like this every time I come back because they're both retired and have nothing to occupy their minds and time. I'm pretty sure that even when I'm away, my mom thinks about my college rejection and AP scores. When we were in the car, she said to me, "Do you remember how in high school you got rejected from Yale and even Columbia, but even Kevin from church got into Yale because his mom hired a tutor for his essays? You know, you did Key Club and so did some of your friends, but they both got into Stanford and you didn't, and their SAT scores weren't even higher than yours." Never mind the fact that I'm literally almost 30 years ago and this just doesn't apply to me any longer. It's super annoying and I'm kind of sick of it. Oh man, this is one of those situations where I would be very frustrated. It's like, dude, just because I didn't go to an Ivy League school doesn't mean I can't have a really good career. And from the sounds of it, the original poster's doing just fine, man. They're not poor, they're not living on the street. They have some money in the bank and it's like, okay, I'm doing fine. I make an average amount of money and like things are going great. I got nothing to complain about. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would also be pretty annoyed because this sounds incredibly obnoxious. An entitled jerk reaches out to me asking for a job, even though she treated me like garbage and ghosted me when I was desperate for work and messaging her. And so this gave me the greatest opportunity at petty revenge I've ever experienced in my life, as I returned that same energy right back at her that she had given me in the first place. Here's how I did it. A couple of years ago, when my husband got a job in another country, I decided to give up my well-paying job to be with him and for us to have a better quality of life. Now, this country is in Europe, and learning the local language was an important requirement for any job outside of tech jobs, unless it was an international company. And for reference, my husband has a tech job and didn't have a language requirement. Since my job field was not in tech, I knew about this and started learning the language before we even moved there. And after we moved, I started sending LinkedIn requests to fellow immigrants from my home country, hoping to get some kind of job search advice. I was going through a depressing period with a horrible job market and 0 interviews in 4 months. And if I'm being completely honest, I did not know what I was doing wrong. I also continued to learn the local language full time, and I had a lot more time to do that since I was out of a job. During this time, I connected with a lady on LinkedIn, let's call her Susan for the sake of the story, who worked in the same field as me. I thanked Susan for accepting my connection request, I explained my situation, and I asked her if she had any tips or advice on finding a job, as she was someone who went through the same journey herself. Susan replies by saying, "Learn the local language. I don't know if I can help you in any other way." I then thanked her and asked if she would be open to meeting for coffee or a phone call, but she said the next 2 months are really busy and she might be able to meet after that. Now, I tried messaging her after that, asking her specific questions about training, certification, and resume points, but in the end, she would just read the message and then ghost me. I was desperate for a job, and I was feeling quite crappy about myself. I messaged a couple more times and even wished her a happy new year over the 4 months that followed, but still, I got nothing in return. Luckily, I finally managed to learn the local language really well, and as a result, I impressed interviewers, and I landed a job about a year later. And you know what? I love my current job. It's a very nice company with with good work culture. Well, earlier this year, Susan lost her job due to budget cuts, and I found this out from her open to work LinkedIn post that she made. Coincidentally enough, my manager was hiring for a role that would be perfect for Susan, and I had just reposted that on my LinkedIn. Well, what do you know? Susan messages me asking for a referral and tells me how much she cares about my company's vision and mission, and that she would love to apply for the role and is happy to share her resume. And all of this, by the way, after leaving my messages completely unresponded. Now, I didn't want to be like her and leave her on read, so I replied with a generic, "Oh, hi Susan, thank you for your interest. Please apply back on our career website. We are reviewing all applications on an ongoing basis, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All the best." Well, the last I checked, she still hasn't gotten a job. And sure, it's a tough market, but at the end of the day, this is not my problem. Okay, I'm a firm believer that this is the only way to handle people who leave you on read. People who ghost you when you're just trying to reach out and make some kind of connection, who then just say nothing to you and be like, "Yeah, you're just gonna have to learn the local language. Can't really help you out from there," in my opinion, don't deserve any help in return. Like, holy crap, I hate people like this. Because one day the shoe is always on the other foot. And I'm not saying like devote all your resources to things, but like, dude, a simple message back could have completely sufficed in this scenario. It wasn't necessary to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm just not gonna respond and you're just gonna have to deal with it." So good for the original poster. And the best part about it is that they were professional the entire time. They didn't rip him a new one, they weren't rude about it, but instead they shut him down by just being completely professional and, if anything, incredibly neutral, which might just be the best way to give a middle finger right back to this lady, especially after she ghosted you when you were desperately in need of some kind of help. My therapist told me to always be 100% honest and unfiltered in our sessions. So I decided to follow his advice and I did exactly what he said, resulting in one of the most awkward therapy sessions I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm honestly not sure what to do about this. Here's what happened. So I've been seeing this psychologist for a while now. It's nothing extreme, no like awful story, just regular therapy stuff that I'm trying to maintain. Talking about feelings, habits, patterns, coping, all of that. One thing he kept repeating almost every single session was that therapy only works if I'm fully honest and I don't filter myself at all. Like, he really pushed it. His exact words were something like, "Say whatever comes to your mind, even if it feels awkward or rude. This is a safe space." And he said it so often that it basically became a rule. So at some point I decided, okay, let's actually do that for real. No softening, no polite wording, no thinking how it sounds. When he asked about how I felt about therapy lately, I answered honestly. I said that sometimes it feels very repetitive, that some questions sound scripted, and that I occasionally feel like I'm talking to a process instead of like a real person. I also mentioned that some of his reactions feel a bit forced or rehearsed. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't trying to be mean, I was just saying it exactly how it popped into my head. Well, the vibe in the room changed really fast. He got visibly tense and started shifting in his chair, and suddenly honesty wasn't the goal anymore. He told me that not every thought needs to be shared, that it's important to stay respectful, and that what I said could be a form of resistance or projection, which honestly confused me because like 5 minutes earlier, he was pushing the whole no filter thing really hard. We ended up spending the rest of the session talking about why I felt the need to say those things instead of actually addressing what I said. I walked out feeling weirdly guilty and uncomfortable, even though I literally did exactly what he asked me to do. And now I'm sitting here wondering if this counts as malicious compliance at all, or if I'm really just bad at therapy, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this is really funny because I've kind of been in your shoes before. Like, I've been to therapy many times, and I've also been a little bit too honest with my therapist. And I will say, if they're bad at their job, this will affect them. But if they're good at their job, they'll be able to redirect and be like, okay, let's stay on course and not make things weird. Because from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like you insulted the therapist and like got under their skin. And so then they suddenly want to be like, okay, well, let's dissect everything you just said about me. And it's like, dude, come on now. I'm literally just trying to be honest and like give my honest feelings about stuff. And instead, we're now sorting through your feelings. Like, what's going on right now? So yeah, that therapist sucked and you didn't do anything wrong. Because the fact that you're in therapy in the first place is a massive win, and that is not something that should be overlooked. My girlfriend has suddenly started to pretend like she's autistic, as she is literally convinced that she is after watching a TikTok video. But after dealing with this for so long, I finally snapped and told her that unless she gets an official diagnosis, she needs to stop saying that she's autistic, resulting in a lot of friction in our relationship and me wondering if I made a mistake, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. A couple of months ago, my long-term girlfriend watched a TikTok video that talked about the 5 signs that you might be autistic or something like that, and now she's utterly convinced that she's on the spectrum. When it comes to reasons why, she'll say that she's always felt just a little bit different, or she's never had many good friends and only trusted a few people. She'll say that she routinely does things like cleaning, and she's always had very specific hobbies like animals and books. Now, at first, I really thought she was joking, but soon she started beginning sentences with, well, as an autistic person, and she did this on a daily basis. Whenever she messes something up, she now says to me, oh, that's because of my autism. I don't always know when I do something wrong. She then started sharing Instagram reels about how hard it is to not be like other people. But here's the thing, she never had any problems reading faces or social cues, or socializing in general. She's a very open and extroverted person. She enjoys clubbing and concerts much more than me. Now, whenever we go out and meet new people, she makes sure to tell them that she's autistic right away, and it's insanely embarrassing to watch them slowly realize that she's talking out of her rear end. Yesterday at a house party, a couple we just met came up to me and started asking questions about living with an autistic person, and that made me snap. Like, I straight up told them, no, she's not. When we returned home, I told my girlfriend to either get an official diagnosis or stop telling everybody about her autism like it's a fun personality quirk, because it's honestly embarrassing and frankly insulting to people with actual autism. When I said this, she started crying and told me that she doesn't need a diagnosis because she just knows. She then sarcastically thanked me for my support and then went to bed. And then today, she got up and went to work without saying a single word. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Am I missing something here? She never acted like this before. She's usually a rational, mature woman. And here's the thing, if she gets diagnosed, I will absolutely apologize, of course. But am I wrong to refuse to participate in something that I think is either a lie or a delusion? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, I cannot even begin to describe how annoying this would be. First and foremost, I totally understand that maybe there's a possibility where she's actually having some kind of like self-discovery, where she's like, oh wait, maybe I really am autistic. But from the sound of it, that doesn't seem like what's going on here. It really seems like she's latching onto this as a personality trait instead of like an official diagnosis of like who she is as a person. Like, she's really treating this like a trend or something like, oh yeah, this is so me, I'm so autistic. When it's like, are you kidding me right now? I know people who are autistic who are completely nonverbal. They can't function at even a base level as a human being. They need help with just about everything. And based on what the original poster is saying, his girlfriend is trivializing autism in a way that's like, oh yeah, this is trendy and this is just who I am. Like, holy crap, is this not okay? And the worst part about it is other people coming up and be like, wow, your girlfriend's autistic. What's that like? And it's like, good Lord, you're now sucked up into this. And it's like, dude, this is very frustrating. And I know for me in my life, I would be very pissed off if my partner dragged me into something like this without having some kind of like rational conversation or getting like an official diagnosis to be like, oh yeah, I guess she really is autistic and I just need to support her. And of course, apologize for being upset. But even then, it's like, dude, why drag your partner into this and put them in a weird spot? Especially when it seems like the girlfriend is literally faking it. Like, I just don't believe the way they're acting. So no, you didn't overreact. Your girlfriend is absolutely doing this the wrong way because it's putting you in a very unfair situation. And that's something that you definitely do not deserve. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to split the bill evenly after my friends ordered way more than I did? Because after I said no, I'm not gonna do that, they said that I'm making things weird and that I'm nickel and diming pretty much everything about the dinner. And now our group chat has pretty much never been the same, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I went out to dinner last weekend with a group of friends I've known ever since college. There were 6 of us in total, and it was just meant to be a simple catch-up. Before ordering, one friend suggested we split the bill evenly to make things easier. Now, I didn't love the idea, but I assume we all ordered similar amounts of food, so I just didn't push back. But guess what? That's not what happened. I ordered a basic pasta and water, no appetizers, no alcohol, and my total would have been around $18 before tax and tip. Meanwhile, 2 of my friends ordered multiple cocktails, appetizers for the table, upgraded entrees, and dessert. One of them even ordered a $42 steak. And by the time the check came, the bill was much higher than I expected. When the server brought the check, someone immediately suggested splitting it 6 ways. But I said I prefer to pay for just what I ordered, since my portion was much less than everyone else's. And it's right at this moment that everything got really awkward. One friend said that it wasn't a big deal and that splitting evenly was easier. Another said we always split evenly and told me not to make it weird about money. But I explained that my meal cost less than half of what some people ordered. And then someone joked that I was being cheap, which really bothered me. But regardless, I stood my ground. And I said I wasn't trying to be difficult, but I didn't think it was fair for me to help pay for the other person's drinks and expensive meals. Well, eventually they agreed to split the bill by item. him. After that, the rest of the night felt tense. And since then, the group chat has been quieter, and one person posted a vague Instagram story about friends who nickel and dime everything. Now, I can afford to split the bill, but I seriously just don't think I should have to when I ordered so little. So am I the jerk here? Because this is honestly getting really frustrating. Dude, you're not the jerk. This is so dumb and petty. You only spent $18 on your meal. Why should you be expected to pay extra? And it honestly seems like they only wanted to split the bill evenly so everyone could order more expensive stuff. Because at the end of the day, oh yeah, someone else is gonna foot the bill, especially someone like yourself who didn't order a lot. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, I think your friends are weird. Am I the jerk for not wanting a service dog in my house for Christmas? Because last year, my cousin brought their service dog and it urinated on my carpet. And I'm just trying to nip this in the bud ahead of time so that I don't have to deal with this ever again. Here's what's going on. Okay, for starters, I host Christmas for my family. We host a large Christmas Eve party every year, and I host because I've got a good house for it, and I'm pretty central to the extended family. Well, last year, my cousin had a service dog in training that she brought to Christmas Eve, and I was told this dog was maybe like a year old. I don't have much experience with them, and I've never really owned any. But not only did this dog urinate inside of my house, but there were other small annoyances that occurred as well, one involving my kid. I also did hear some complaints from another family member too. A few weeks ago, I asked around to see if my cousin was coming because I was going to nip this in the bud this year and ban it. I was then told by my family members that she wasn't coming, so I thought there was nothing to deal with. But then I got notice on Sunday that she in fact would be in attendance. So I called her yesterday to tell her that she could come, but her dog is not invited. Well, as you can imagine, this caused some drama. I've been told that her parents, namely my aunt and uncle, and her siblings are threatening to not come. If I'm being honest, it's been a complete nightmare ever since this happened. I've offered to let the dog stay outside, but it can't come inside. But I'm being told that apparently that's an unreasonable thing to ask of them. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, yeah, the original poster is absolutely the jerk. I can't believe you're even asking this. I understand that the dog might have gone to the bathroom inside the house, but what would you rather have? A pee stain on the carpet or your cousin no longer living? Now, I have to say the original poster did clarify and be like, oh, well, it's a diabetic service dog, saying that she trained it herself and that she got it as a puppy, while also saying they're not going to comment on its legitimacy, but I think you know what you're trying to say here. Because first of all, this is absolutely a dog that needs to be around, because this dog being present is literally the difference between life and death. So to that extent, I don't blame everyone for being like, are you kidding me right now? No, we're not showing up to Christmas. This is incredibly insensitive and very tone deaf to what's going on here. So yeah, you're definitely the jerk and you probably need to make this right. Am I overreacting by being pissed off at my girlfriend's family for expecting me to sleep on the couch when everyone else gets a bed, all while we're vacationing in Mexico? Because right now I'm still very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so my girlfriend and I were planning to go on vacation with her family in Mexico for a wedding. This was something that was planned for the entirety of the year and was something I really look forward to. Throughout the year, I kept asking how much I would need to pay for my share of the Airbnb and how much the ticket for the flight was, plus how much I would need to pay for the Airbnb itself. Mind you, everything was booked and bought. For context, they are pretty wealthy and have a successful family business, and if I'm not mistaken, they had booked both the Airbnb and my flight ticket all under the company card. My girlfriend still lives with her parents, and her parents are very conservative and don't allow us to sleep in the same room, go on trips alone together, or even stay out past a certain time, only for special occasions. But anyways, the day was coming closer for the flight and the vacation, and I still had no idea how much I needed to pay. All I knew was that I was going, but I did not want it to be paid for me. In my mind, I'm a grown adult, and allowing her parents and family to pay for me only adds to their thought process of seeing us like children. Anyways, fast forward, and my girlfriend asks her brother how the layout for the stay is gonna be, who's gonna stay where, and where are people gonna sleep. Her brother then proceeds to inform her that there's 3 rooms, one for him and his wife, the other for my girlfriend's sister and her boyfriend as they live together, and the other one for my girlfriend and her little nephew. And apparently I was gonna sleep on the couch. Now, I did not want to sleep on the couch, not on vacation for 4 nights, especially after I had offered to pay whatever was necessary. I then said straight up, I'm not gonna sleep on the couch, and that's when my girlfriend and everyone else said that I was making it a bigger deal than it needed to be. Now, I honestly need to know, did I overreact here? Should I have just sucked it up and gone with it? Or was I in the right for not wanting to spend my hard-earned personal time off and my money on a trip where I'd be sleeping on a couch? Because right now I'm honestly really frustrated and I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I can kind of see where the original poster is coming from. I would be really frustrated if I'm going on a trip with someone else's family and they're like, oh, we all get beds, but you're gonna get a couch. Sorry. Like, dude, what are you talking about? That's not okay. Why does the nephew get a bed, but I'm like getting nothing but a couch? That just seems really weird. So I think with the information you've given us, I don't really blame you for being like, yeah, this is really frustrating and I hate this. Because no, you're not making a big deal out of everything. If anything, it kind of shows that, yeah, you are not a priority in this family. They see you as someone they can throw on the couch and that's that. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would probably feel the same way. My toxic mom literally said that if I wanted to stay with her for Christmas, I need to pay for my time that I'm spending at her house. And even though my stepdad literally invited me to show up and spend time with them, I'm now completely heartbroken that my mom is actually very toxic, even though I really wanted to believe that she was different. Here's how it all happened. For starters, I live across the world, and at my stepdad's invitation, I came to visit my mom and my stepdad. Well, my mom's been giving me the cold shoulder ever since I arrived, and she's been withdrawing from me for the past year, but I was going through a very difficult period of my life, so I just simply couldn't deal with her. But since it's Christmas time, I decided that I would invest in the time and energy to come and see my parents. The flight tickets cost around $2,000, and the flight itself took me 20 hours just to get home. Well, ever since coming here, my mom's been telling me that I am too much of a taker rather than a giver. She raised me, but yet I've not given her anything. I kept on asking her what she wants, and eventually she said that she wants me to pay her for my Christmas day. She wants to charge me $200 a day for staying with them, which, by the way, the price is literally 2 times that of a local price of a hotel. I understand that I'm an adult and I am her child, and I am probably obligated to pay, but even still, it hurts a bit to see my mom is so transactional. Maybe now I should realize that, yeah, she probably is really toxic. I've been out of the house since 19 and left my home country for the last 3 years. I've worked part-time jobs ever since I was 14, and I paid for my own university. And if I'm being completely honest, I really think I had this fantasy built in my head that my mom actually loves me, but coming home, it definitely shattered this because that is clearly not true. Oh man, I can't imagine coming home and my mom being like, oh yeah, you gotta pay to be here. When it's like, dude, my stepdad literally said, hey, come and spend Christmas with us. It's gonna be fun. Like, what the crap is going on? This is so frustrating. You're literally there by invitation and she's trying to be like, oh no, you're gonna pay. And it's like, well, dude, if I had known that, I would have just gotten a hotel. Like, what's going on right now? So yeah, I think your mom is very toxic and I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this. An entitled jerk gets shut down at a pharmacy as he tries to get mouthy with the wrong people at the perfect time. Here's what happened. So I just saw this very entitled man get shut down by 2 other guys at my local pharmacy counter, and my god, it was the most satisfying and glorious experience of my entire life. Now, for a bit of context, the usual pharmacy drive-thru is closed down, which really does happen whenever they're understaffed, which also means that you have to go in if you want to get your medicine. So now, when you go into the pharmacy, there's this long line with a very frazzled tech behind the counter. They have an electric kiosk to let you check in, and then they text you when you're next, but also they have a big electronic board with your first initials or the last 3 or 4 digits of your phone number to show your status. As it was my turn to check in, a very self-important man wearing sunglasses indoors with a little dog on a leash, which isn't allowed in the store by the way, tries to outmaneuver me to cut in front of me at the kiosk. But no, I don't think so. I basically leap in front of the screen, with this entitled jerk being slowed down by his little dog. And now at this point, everybody's just patiently waiting except for this entitled jerk. Everyone's being super nice to the pharmacy tech as it's clear that he's swamped and overwhelmed, except for this jerk who's in the corner. He keeps sighing and pacing, muttering under his breath, and mind you, he doesn't look sick or anything like he needed something super urgently. He just looks like and is acting like a jerk. Finally, this entitled jerk leans over another guy at the counter who waited in line and was up next for their medicines by the way, and just keeps motioning to the tech, waving his hand, shouting out, excuse me, I just have a quick question. Now the guy he's leaning over at the counter says to him, hey, relax, wait your turn. Everyone's waiting their turn. The entitled jerk then gets pissy and says, I just have a quick question. I shouldn't have to wait. But another guy steps up and says, hey, just back off and wait. Can't you see that they're swamped? The entitled jerk keeps explaining why he's more important than everyone else, but the guy at the counter literally just turns around and tells him to get lost. And when considering how mean this guy was being, this was honestly a glorious thing to watch. Okay, if you're gonna find a Karen or like some kind of jerk in some scenario, the pharmacy is probably like ground zero for these types of people. Like, holy crap, God forbid you have to wait 10 minutes to get your medicine when this place is swamped already. You're not the only person who had the same idea of like, oh, I want to get my medicine before the holidays. All he had to do was sit there and be patient, and yeah, he would have gotten his stuff. So good for the other people in line for shutting this guy down. I love it when that happens because holy crap, we gotta be in solidarity to deal with people like that. Am I overreacting for being upset at my wife after she practically told me that I'm not allowed to travel to the funeral of my best friend's young son, who passed away of cancer by the way, all because she disapproves of my friendship with this guy, as she literally has taken all my credit cards and said I'm not allowed to leave, putting me in a situation that honestly feels very inappropriate and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for a bit of context, my best friend and I have known each other ever since college. He has a number of struggles with addiction, but has now been clean for over 17 years. I've stuck with him through all of it, even though I've never dabbled in the stuff that he's done. Mostly, our friendship has always been long distance. We both lived in the same region for many years, so visiting was more frequent. But since moving to the West Coast, it's been a while since we've seen each other in person. Despite these circumstances, we've always talked every few weeks and been in each other's lives. I had also not seen his son since my best friend was still married to his mom, with them being divorced ever since the early 2000s, and she had other children and one or more of her subsequent marriages. We've also known that my friend's son has had cancer for 10 years, but he got treatment from St. Jude's as a teen and went on to have a normal, healthy young adulthood, graduating college and working in cybersecurity. Well, this past summer, his cancer returned and he died on December 21st. He was only 25 years old. As my best friend's only son, who literally made him a better man, he overcame everything to fully be part of his son's life and was in love with parenting. He maintained fatherhood all those years with weekly visits, financial and emotional support, literally everything. And I'm obviously devastated, as I too have but one child that means everything to me. I can't even comprehend what my best friend is going through right now. We also haven't spoken since the cancer returned because he simply cannot talk about it. And I've obviously sent him text messages and followed everything from afar. I've looked into the cost, and airfares actually will drop sharply in the new year. I'll be able to fly where I need to go, rent a car, and get a decent hotel room for 2 nights at a reasonable rate. I'm also able to get time off of work. It's only 4 days in total, and it's something I'd be happy to do to see my best friend and attend his son's funeral and memorial. Now, for a bit of context, my wife keeps insisting that my best friend was somehow associated with the time, which was before we were married and not living together, when I had a brief fling that she did not approve of. This was with a young woman who did certain type of work, if you know what I mean. And I have to say also, this was at a time in my life when I too was making some really poor choices. But I also very quickly came to my senses, I got it out of my system, and I moved on. I also never kept it a secret, and I thought my now wife had moved past all of that, since I believed that I had made amends years and years ago. But evidently, she does not think so. She's been bringing all of this up again that literally happened 18 years ago, trying to paint me as some kind of criminal. And here's the thing, she also thinks that somehow my best friend met this person, and furthermore insists that mine and my best friend's relationship is not based on anything healthy. She's also removed my credit cards from my wallet, most of which are paid off, and insists that I'm not allowed to book this trip. She says it's too much of an expense, and that she forbids me from going. I should also mention that none of these cards are in her name, since she has no credit and no job, whereas I make a fairly decent living in TV broadcasting, while also doing Lyft on the side to earn some extra money, which totals out to like over $100,000 a year. Meanwhile, she hasn't had a full-time job in almost 5 years. I pay for everything, including her health insurance, and have actually reined in a lot of my previous debts. And sure, I absolutely have made mistakes, like I'm not a perfect person, but I've owned up to things and I moved on. And I really thought we mended things from the past, at least in the sense that she married me, knowing all that we had been through, but she also forgets that much of what happened occurred while we were living apart. She confuses timelines to insist that I was cheating, when in actuality, I was doing stuff that she didn't like, fairly openly mind you, as a single male with other consenting adults. And I definitely cheated before we were married and caused breakups, but it was maybe once when I was fully in the throes of being an addict. And 90% of the supposed incidents that she recalls were definitely attempts to cheat that just failed and went sideways. But with all that in mind, I've never cheated in our marriage, and I thought all of that was behind us, but my God, I guess not. I'm so livid right now. I feel like she has no right to tell me whether I can undertake this, and that she is way off base for even judging the basis of my relationship with a person I consider to be like a brother to me. So am I overreacting right now? Because honestly, I don't know what to do. Oh man, this is a heavy one because there is a lot going on. First of all, yeah, it sounds like you had a crappy past and you made some serious mistakes. You attempted to cheat, and you did like once maybe before you guys got married, and you also spent some time with ladies of the night apparently, if you know what I mean, which is also a terrible idea. Like, what were you thinking? But hey, dude, people make mistakes, and it sounds like you made amends for your mistakes and moved on. You became a better person. You didn't do that stuff anymore. And in my opinion, that is really what should matter. So for your wife to step in and be like, oh, I can't believe you did that 18 15 years ago. Yes, I'm still holding a grudge. What's the problem? It's like, dude, let's look at the context right now. This guy's best friend's son literally just passed away. He stood by his side and been really good friends with him for a long time, and the least he could do is at least show up and be like, hey, I support you, I'm here for you, and I'm so sorry this happened. So with all that in mind, despite any kind of history you might have, your wife saying that you're not allowed to go, in my opinion, is insane. There is no good justification for that, especially with her taking your credit cards. Like, I would be very pissed off if someone took my credit cards and said, oh, you're not allowed to go. Like, dude, I'm a grown adult, I can do whatever I want. Like, you're definitely not going to control my life in some way that's inappropriate. So no, I don't think you're overreacting, and I think your wife is acting just a little bit insane. Because the way she's acting is completely unacceptable, and you definitely do not deserve this. My entitled father demands that I uproot my entire career and go get my realtor license so that he can use me to buy more rental properties at a cheaper rate. But after being under this guy's thumb my entire life, I finally had the chance to put my foot down and completely shut him down, telling him off in a way that I've always wanted to. And I've got to be honest, it felt very satisfying, and I'm very glad that I did it. Here's what happened. To start things out, my father is a very typical Chinese businessman. He snuck to Canada when I was very young and stayed until he got citizenship and moved me and my mom over. Then he promptly went back to China to start a business as soon as my sister was born. For years, the only time he ever talked to us is when he needs English translation of documents and to carry out his business dealings overseas. To compensate us for his lack of presence, he sends us money and gifts us gaudy brand name clothing that doesn't fit, even though he doesn't even know our sizes. Then, once I'm an adult, he tricked me into a panic job search by saying his business is failing and he can't send us mortgage payments. I stayed in a soul-sucking underpaid job for 2 years, working through mental breakdowns, literally believing that I'm the only financial source. He finally slipped up one time when he needed me to pay for a business deal in Canada, and I just blinked and said, I don't have any money. Throughout my adulthood, he would require me to do various errands in ridiculous hours because of the time zone differences, such as drawing on my own savings to manage his finances. I would retract multiple times the monies he gave me as a gift, not to mention he burdened my mom and I with managing rental houses that he partially paid for, which by the way was all in the name of family assets. But he is a capitalist through and through, wringing every drop of free labor out of his own family with the pretense of a benevolent father. One of his favorite justifications is to say, oh, this will all be yours when I'm gone. I started to realize he is mistreating this financial control when my sister got a raise in her job. As my mom and I were celebrating with my sister, she said, well, now I can take care of you and mom. I could not convey the full emotion in words, but it slowly dawned on me that we don't need my father's financial support anymore. We are independent and we can act on our own interests instead of his. My sister also encourages me to prioritize my mental health, and I slowly grew a backbone with regards to dealing with dad. The tipping point came some months ago when he once again nagged me about going into real estate, wanting me to get a license so he can buy more houses cheaper. He said to me, it's easy to get a license, you just need to study for a couple of months. But you know what? I finally snapped and answered in a way that a well-mannered Chinese daughter would not do. I said to him, I am not interested in real estate. I'm not suited to be a salesman, and I will never apply for a license. I am not working a third job just so you can have more houses. He looked at me shocked and said, but all the money they've earned I'll leave to you. You'll inherit all of my money. I then said to him, exactly. That means the money is not mine right now. That's all your money. I'm helping you manage your money because I'm your daughter. I am not going to work myself into an early grave for you. Now, my dad truly just can't wrap his head around this because he said to me, you are not making sense. You are earning money that will be all yours. I won't be here forever and you'll have it all. At this point, I'm trying so hard not to scream, but I said to him, look, I don't need your money. I'm only doing what I can because you are my father and I'm helping family, but I won't devote all of my free time to making you money. He then defaults to guilt tripping me, which is something he always does, and says to me, is this how you're gonna repay me for all my sacrifices? But right as he was getting started, I cut him off. I say to him, it's your duty to raise me and you've done that. Now it's my duty to take care of you and mom. And part of that is to tell you I can't make money as you wanted. My sister and I are already making enough to take care of you and mom. We literally don't need that anymore. If you want to earn more money, do it without involving us. I will only help you when I have time. He then went on to try and complain more by saying, oh, kids these days are so lazy. But I said to him, I am a fully grown adult. I'm not a kid. I have a full-time job that sometimes requires overtime. I take care of mom, I take care of our home, and all of the rental units. I will not spend my very limited free time applying for a realtor license. Now, is there anything else you actually want to talk to me about? Well, at this point, he was speechless, so I just said to him, okay, whatever, take care and don't play golf until your shoulder hurts. Bye. And honestly, it felt so good after all these years to finally take control of my free time. The shadow of my father's request superseding any activity had always loomed large in my life, and now I can enjoy sunshine once more without fear of needing to do something for him. Okay, this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, boundaries are a big deal. Holy crap, your dad was like, hey, get a realtor's license so I can buy more property for cheap. When it's like, dude, you're asking me to change my entire life and career just so you can make more money? Like, are you kidding me right now? What's going on? That is so incredibly selfish, it's not even funny. And in my opinion, it's completely devoid of any kind of like understanding of what your kids are going through. I'm sure they're not saying, oh, you didn't raise us properly or you didn't raise us at all, but I definitely think they're like, man, now that I'm an adult, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm not gonna be under this guy's thumb any longer, and I'm gonna make my own money. So yeah, this entire situation is very crazy to me. I think your dad was completely out of line by trying to request that out of you, but I also think it was fantastic that you stood up for yourself and put your foot down, because this kind of entitlement absolutely deserved to get shut down. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled customer tried to return something to our store that they very clearly bought somewhere else, as this customer literally lost her mind when I asked her for a receipt because she not only didn't have one, but also said she was going to leave bad reviews all because we couldn't help her out. And it's honestly so exhausting dealing with customers like this. Here's what happened. So I work at a small boutique that sells home decor and gifts. Yesterday, this woman came in with a decorative vase still in its box, wanting to return it. The box also looked beat up and had this weird smell, like it had just been sitting in a garage for months. I asked for her receipt and said that she didn't have one, but insisted that she bought it here a few weeks ago. Now, here's the thing. I've worked here for over a year, and I've never seen that vase in our inventory, ever. The box had a completely different price sticker format than what we use, and the barcode didn't match our system at all. I politely explained that I couldn't process the return without a receipt, and that I wasn't sure if we even carried the item in the first place. Well, when I said that, she got so defensive. Then she started going off about how she definitely bought it here, and that I must be new or not paying attention. She then pulled out her phone and started showing me photos of our store from Google reviews like that proved anything. Then she mentioned that she'd seen similar items on wholesale sites when she was planning her move from Los Angeles and knew for a fact that we source from Alibaba suppliers, just like everybody else, so it shouldn't matter where the exact box came from. But it's like, ma'am, that's not how returns work at all. My manager eventually came over and explained the same policy, and this woman left in a huff saying that she was going to leave bad reviews. And honestly, some people really think that retail workers are just idiots who will believe anything, because this entire situation was completely avoidable. Okay, I hate customers who act like this, especially ones who are like, oh no, I bought it here, only to then reveal their hand and be like, oh no, I actually bought it online and I want to return it. But it's like, if you want a refund, then go to the place you actually bought it. Like, why give these people a hard time for literally no reason? You're just wasting your time and everybody else's. Like, I know for a fact if I was in this scenario, I would be very annoyed and I would hate having to deal with it. My neighbor keeps using my driveway as a turnaround spot, despite the fact that we live at the end of a cul-de-sac, and there's no reason to ever use my driveway in the first place. But after I told her to stop doing that, she freaked out on me in a way that really has rubbed me the wrong way. And now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk in this situation, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I live on a cul-de-sac and my driveway is at the end, positioned in a way that makes it convenient for turning around. For the past few months, my neighbors from 3 houses down has been using my driveway multiple times a day just so she can turn her car around instead of using the actual cul-de-sac circle like a normal person. Now, at first I ignored it, thinking maybe it was a one-time thing, but it's become a daily occurrence. She pulls into my driveway, reverses out, and then drives off, sometimes multiple times in one day. It's not technically blocking me in, but it is my property, and it's annoying watching someone treat my driveway like a public turnaround. Well, last week I was outside washing my car when she pulled in to do her usual turnaround. I politely walked over and I asked her if she could please just use the cul-de-sac instead of my driveway, since this is private property. And my God, her response was unbelievable. She told me that I was being ridiculous, and that apparently it doesn't hurt anything for her to turn around there. She said the cul-de-sac is too tight for her car and my driveway is more convenient. When I said I'd prefer that she didn't use my property, she actually rolled her eyes and said, it's just a driveway. It's not like I'm parking there. Well, I tried to stay calm and just repeated that I would appreciate it if she would stop. She then drove off without agreeing to anything and has continued using my driveway every single day since. Yesterday, she pulled in while I was getting groceries out of my car and didn't even acknowledge me. I then mentioned it to another neighbor who actually said this woman complained to multiple people on our street about me being unwelcoming and territorial over public space. She apparently told people that I yelled at her, which absolutely did not happen. I'm considering putting up a small sign or maybe one of those collapsible barrier things, but I don't want to escalate this into a full neighborhood war. My husband thinks I should just let it go since it's not actually causing damage. Meanwhile, my sister suggested that I order these cheap boards online just so I can block the entrance, but that also feels a little petty. I did look at nicer barrier options during a sale with like $10 off of like every $100 spent at the hardware store, but I couldn't justify the cost for something this stupid. So seriously, am I in the wrong for wanting her to stop using my driveway? How do I handle this without turning it into a neighborhood problem? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, if I was in your shoes, I absolutely would be parking my car at the end of the driveway. Like seriously, if she wants to be weird and be like, oh, I can use your driveway, it's public property. First of all, no, it's not. But secondly, oh, okay, we could be weird. Let's be weird together. I'm now going to block my entire driveway with my vehicle so that you can never do that again. Because seriously, what she's doing is stupid. There's no reason she should be going into your driveway that often, especially when there's literally a cul-de-sac she could be using. Even if she has to back up once or twice when going around the cul-de-sac, she doesn't have a right to your driveway. Like, that's weird. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. This lady is a psychopath, and I don't blame you for being upset. Am I the jerk for wanting to end a 15-year relationship after finding out that my girlfriend hid a major health issue from me for over a decade? Because right now I feel betrayed and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend and I have been together for 15 years and we've been living together for 12. We started dating in our mid-20s and we've built a life together. We have a shared home, we share our finances, we even have a dog that we both adore, and I really thought that we knew everything about each other. Last month we were at a barbecue at her friend's house and I was chatting with her mom about how neither me nor my girlfriend really want kids. But then her mom made an offhand comment about how it's really for the best considering her condition. I asked what she meant and she got all flustered and then just changed the subject. Later on, I asked my girlfriend about it and she just kind of brushed it off saying it was nothing. But you know what? I pushed the conversation, saying that we shouldn't have secrets, and eventually she got defensive. She then admitted that she has a genetic disorder that drastically increases her risk of certain cancers. She's known about this ever since she was 18 but never told me. And when I found out about this, I was floored. This was a huge thing to hide. When I asked why she never said anything, she said she didn't want it to define her or our relationship, that she had always managed it quietly with regular screening, so she didn't see the need to worry me. But all I could think of was, well, what if something had happened to her? I wouldn't have ever known what was going on. And the fact that she actively hid it, even when we had discussions about having kids, like I feel like I don't even know her. I then told her that I needed space to process this betrayal. After a lot of soul searching, I realized that I don't think I can trust her ever again. If she could hide something this big for 15 years, what else might she be keeping from me? And it's here that I told her I want to end our relationship. Well, she's devastated. She says it was a mistake not to tell me, but that it doesn't change our love or our life together. Her family thinks I'm overreacting to an admittedly difficult situation. But seriously, am I the jerk for feeling like this was an unforgivable breach of trust? That someone who could lie to me daily for over a decade isn't someone I can build a future with? I'm heartbroken, but I feel like I don't have a choice, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, the original poster here is completely out of line. Yeah, you are completely stupid for leaving your girlfriend over this. Like, are you kidding me right now? This is not her lying about cheating on you. This is her saying, yeah, I've got like a genetic disorder. Sorry, I didn't really mention it because it's not really a big deal. This is not some big betrayal where it's like, oh, I can't believe you kept something from me. Why would you do that? I'm gonna break up with you and throw away 15 years of our lives. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, you are absolutely the jerk here. This is so dumb. You're giving up on your relationship all because your girlfriend might get cancer. Like, what are you talking about? If you really loved her, this would not even be an issue. So the fact that it is an issue for me screams everything I need to know about you, like holy crap. So yeah, you are definitely the jerk here. This is a massive mistake, and I really think your girlfriend's family is completely right. You're overreacting, and this is really not that big of a deal. My sibling literally volunteered my time just to look generous, all without asking me first. But after I declined to help out with the crap they were trying to sign me up for, they tried to claim that I embarrassed them in front of the entire family. And now, after being called selfish as well as a myriad of other names, I'm starting to wonder if I'm the jerk for not just following through and sucking it up. Because right now, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so last month, my sibling invited a few relatives over to my place. I didn't mind. I mean, I cooked, I cleaned, I bought the food, and I figured it would just be a low-key family family night. During dinner, one of my cousins mentioned that they were moving soon and were stressed about doing it alone. Before I could even react, my sibling jumped in and said, "Oh, don't worry, they'll help you move this weekend." I then laughed and thought it was a joke, and I said, "Wait, what?" My sibling didn't even look at me. They just said, "You're free on Saturdays. You don't really do much anyways." And I said to them, "You didn't even ask me." They just rolled their eyes and replied, "Why are you making this awkward? It's family." And I just said to them, "I'm not making it awkward. I just want you to ask me first." Later that night, my cousin pulled me aside and thanked me for being so generous, then mentioned my sibling has already told them I insisted on helping to make up for a favor I apparently owed. Now, what was that favor, you might be asking? Well, it was lending my sibling money the month before, which they still haven't even paid back. The next day, I told everyone I wasn't helping, and my sibling blew up at me, saying that I made them look bad and embarrassed them in front of the family. And now I'm being called selfish for refusing to give up my weekend and cover for a promise I never made. So am I the jerk here? Because this is honestly really unorganized and very frustrating. Okay, in my opinion, I would lose my mind if someone did this crap to me. Seriously, there's no excuse for this. First and foremost, no one's gonna make any plans for me whatsoever. I don't care if they're family or a spouse, no one's gonna make plans for me without talking to me first. And no one's gonna volunteer me for something without asking first either. That is almost just as obnoxious, if not worse so, because dude, that is frustrating beyond end. I can't stand people who are like, "Oh, you're not doing anything anyways on Saturdays. Don't make it awkward. I mean, come on, this is family." And it's yeah, this is family, and family asks people and respects boundaries. Or at least you would hope so. I mean, holy crap, sometimes they just definitely don't. But in this case, I would expect them to. You absolutely need to know this is not okay. You can't just volunteer me for something and expect me to be okay with it. Because at that point, I absolutely will embarrass you in front of the family. I'll tell them straight up, I was not cleared of this beforehand, and no, I'm not available. And it ends there. You literally don't have to give any explanation. So no, you are not the jerk. Your sibling's an idiot for trying to volunteer you like this. And if they're embarrassed, then that's on them and definitely not you. My manager on the last day of me working there made me wait until 3 o'clock in the afternoon just to have an exit interview. But since my desk was packed up, I decided to get some petty revenge for making me wait, as I hid well over 700 of my business cards all throughout the office and warehouse, ensuring that I'm leaving a lasting legacy, because trust me, they'll be finding those business cards pretty much everywhere for years to come. Here's what happened. I'm a 29-year-old male, and I worked at a small company as a salesman for the better part of 4 years. As my sales went up, my income went down due to restructuring and all this other garbage. Meanwhile, my boss and I would butt heads pretty frequently, but somehow not enough to get fired. Well, on my last day, they took my accounts away in the morning, but wanted me to stay until 3 for an exit interview. Now, I had already cleaned out my desk and legitimately had nothing to do but wait. There ended up being a box and a half of business cards left over, with about 700 cards in there that, you know what, I decided I was gonna hide everywhere. And no, I didn't leave stacks here or there. I hid every single one individually. My boss's shades were up, so I tucked close to 50 in between the shutters, meaning that when the shades closed, it would rain down cards. I also put them under people's see-through rubber mats for their chairs. I tucked them into unused rolls of paper towels so they fell out one by one when in the dispenser, and we also had a small warehouse with hundreds of boxes, and every single open box ended up with my business card in them. They are literally hidden throughout the first aid kit, behind pieces of art on the wall, lining the conference room windows. I mean, you name it and I put it there. They literally will be finding my cards for years to come, and honestly, I think that's probably the best way to be remembered. Oh man, this is really funny. First of all, if your sales are going up but your income's going down, then holy crap, it's a good thing you're getting out of that place. You're making the money, but obviously it's not enough, and they're clearly bad at their jobs. So that in and of itself really sucks. But the fact that they made you stay the entire day, literally stay until 3 o'clock in the afternoon for an exit interview, on your last day of work, for me, that's really dumb, because they could have done that right then and there and sent you on your way. At that point, they're just doing that to be inconvenient instead of there being a legitimate reason why you need to stick around. So to me, I really like this petty revenge. I love the fact that you hid it everywhere, because like you said, they're going to be finding this for years to come, and in my opinion, I think that's a good way of getting revenge. An entitled boomer causes problems the second he shows up to the first class row I was sitting in, as he snaps at the flight attendant in a way that made me worry that this was going to be the entire flight, him complaining and me dealing with it, putting me in a scenario that honestly I wish I never had to deal with. Here's what happened. So recently, I took the opportunity to upgrade to first class right before a flight, and I've got to say, I had maybe 3 minutes to enjoy it before my boomer seatmate arrived. The first thing he said was the F word, because we were in the first row, so there was no seat to slide our small bags under. When the flight attendant informed him that there was no space in the overhead bin for his, he snapped at her for no apparent reason, saying that he paid a lot of money for this seat as he stood up and huffily put his bag in. Then he ordered his first glass of wine, pulled out his phone, and started watching a football game with the volume up loud enough for everyone around to hear. No headphones or earbuds or anything, and kept watching it until after we took off. I could clearly hear people behind us talking and laughing about it, but he seemed completely oblivious to it. Now, I will give credit where credit is due though. He was fine for the rest of the flight. The couple directly behind us had an infant who stayed remarkably quiet through the whole flight until we started descending. Then he did not stop screaming until we made it to the gate. I was cringing the whole time, waiting for this guy to explode. I mean, he was probably on his fifth glass of wine at this point, but surprisingly, he kept quiet until we were about to deplane and then actually said something nice about how well they did with the baby. So maybe he should have just started drinking before he got on the plane. Oh, and by the way, next time I'm staying in economy where I belong because I took a risk and honestly, it was not really worth it. Okay, this is one of those situations where it's like, oh man, I finally get to fly first class. I can never afford it. It's always way too expensive, but today is my day. But then you end up with a boomer like this and you're like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare. They're going to be annoying. They're going to be causing problems. I am not looking forward to this. But thankfully, it looks like all they needed to do was just get drunk and then everything would work out. So I think the original poster got really lucky because this could have been way different. My entitled manager refuses to pay me a fair wage, as they literally take off 2 hours of my work every single shift. So I decided to get some revenge by literally refusing to show up to work while also going around town and ruining his reputation, resulting in his business being closed down 4 months later. And with all things considered, I'm honestly really satisfied with the way this all went down because my manager was a jerk and he definitely deserved it. Here's what happened. When I was a student, I had a few bad casual jobs, and one of them was arriving at 5 o'clock in the morning to sort out the deliveries made to a paper shop from different printers. I started the day by parking at the owner's house and picking up the van. I'd drive to the shop and I'd have to sort out about 500 to 700 different papers and anywhere up to 300 different magazines. There was generally a 3-page list I had to work through in a short time. I'd have to wrap the personal deliveries in cling wrap and put the orders for corner stores into their own separate boxes so I could just drive around reading my list and toss them out the van window onto lawns or deliver to shops in the shortest time possible. It wasn't a great job and you could not make any mistakes because otherwise there would be angry phone calls from shops or people who missed out on an order. The owner's shop always had a certain number of pickups and he liked to have about 50 left over for casual walk-in customers. I had to deliver to shops and direct to people. By 6 o'clock in the morning, I had to deliver to shops and then drive around for about 4 hours throwing the rest on lawns. On top of this, if the printers were short on what they delivered, which was pretty common, I'd have to short the corner stores on their deliveries and cop their mistreatment so that there were enough papers for the owner's shop, and he never missed out on having enough stock. Needless to say, it's not an appealing job, even if the job description was all that you looked at, but the owner underpaid me by about 2 hours for every shift. I only did this on Saturdays and Sundays, but I requested that he pay me correctly for about 15 weeks running, and he slowly increased the amount I was shorted and would then pay me about a third of the money I was shorted by every few weeks. And while I wasn't stupid, I am in fact slow to get angry. Then he started telling me that I had to wash the van out of my own pocket before dropping it at his house, and this is because he was trying to sell it. It was also starting to need frequent repairs. I asked him to leave the money there for the car wash, and he told me to do it out of my own pocket, and he would add the car wash fees to my pay. But you know what? I didn't wash that van once, as I seriously doubted I would ever get reimbursed. Plus, I was already pretty angry about the money I was missing. He called me up after I left Sunday and told me off about the van not being washed. And you know what? That was the last straw for me, but I didn't quit right on the spot. Instead, I fumed about it for a day or two before finally making a plan to get my revenge. The following Saturday, I slept in just a little bit. Basically, instead of getting there when I was supposed to, I decided to lay in bed. When the first of the corner stores reported that they were missing their deliveries, the owner rang me up and asked me if I knew what time it was, to which I responded, yes, I do. He then asked me, do you know what day it is? And I said, yes, it's Saturday. To which he then said, okay, well then why are you not at work? And it's here that I said to him, well, because I'm not coming. You've ripped me off in my pay almost every week since I started. Once I said that, he then said to to me, "Well then who's gonna be doing the deliveries?" To which I responded, "Well, why should I care?" And to top it all off, he actually asked me if I was coming in tomorrow, to which I responded resolutely, "Absolutely not." I gave him about 10 seconds to process it and then told him to delete my number. I then later did the corner store loop and I explained to them that he would often short them on their orders just to ensure that he wasn't low on stock, as well as not paying his delivery drivers, and frankly advised them to hit up one of the other paper shops to arrange getting their orders through them. Well, much to my happiness, about 4 months later, the shop permanently closed. And I hope that I played a small part in that by letting his reputation get ruined, but that's honestly the most satisfying way I've ever left a job because these people absolutely deserved it. Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. First and foremost, anybody who doesn't pay their employees on time, or at all for that matter, are giant pieces of garbage. I have dealt with this firsthand as a teenager, and let me tell you something. It is demoralizing and it is very scary. Here you have a grown adult who's supposed to be paying you a wage that you agreed upon, and they're literally just not paying you what they're supposed to. They're taking advantage of you, they're doing things that are just sketchy and under the table, and that is so toxic and illegal. You have to pay people what they're worth. Like, you can't just walk around and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna pay you like a third of what you're owed." It's like, no, dude, you're not gonna take 2 hours off of my workday and then not pay me for those 2 hours. You're absolutely gonna pay me for what I'm worth, and you're gonna pay me for the time I actually did my job. So I love the fact that the original poster literally played a role in shutting that business down. And based on how quickly this went down, I guarantee that the original poster was probably like the match that lit the flame and burned that place to the ground. Because dude, their shop closed in 4 months. It must have been a really crappy business for one person to essentially and inevitably take it down. So good for the original poster. I love that this happened, and honestly, this manager absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk scams me with his Airbnb business by literally giving me a room that I never even wanted in the first place. But after enduring all of his nasty comments as well as his threats, I decided that enough was enough, as I literally reported this guy to the police and pretty much anybody who would listen that what he was doing was illegal and he was definitely breaking the law. And honestly, I'm so satisfied because I know for a fact that he is going to have a lot of problems, especially after I found out that this guy was here only on a student visa. Here's what happened. To start things out, I needed a room for 6 weeks in a big German city. So I went on Airbnb in September and I found a room. The Airbnb description said it had Wi-Fi, a window in the kitchen, and was close to where I would be working. I got along with the owner, I exchanged numbers, and asked whether we could find a solution without using Airbnb. We then agreed that I would pay directly and avoid any of their fees. Well, later on, I suddenly received a new address for the apartment. When I arrived, I found out he was renting out a student dorm room. And trust me, this was never mentioned in the description. There was no Wi-Fi, the photos didn't match, and the apartment was very dirty. Now, I needed the room, so I paid him the agreed amount, which is the same price we had agreed on for the original Airbnb apartment. But immediately, I was confronted with his rules. He said no guests in the house, and if he found out, I would have to pay. If the apartment was dirty, he would charge me extra, and by the way, these were all presented as threats. Over the following weeks, every time I raised an issue, he threatened me with extra costs and insulted me. Well, I then started digging, and I found out he was a subtenant of a subtenant of a subtenant. He had found the student apartment only 5 days before I moved in and lied to the tenant above him, saying that I was a friend. He paid around 400 euros for the whole period while charging me 800 euros, never even mentioning the Airbnb. He is a student and openly bragged about running illegal Airbnbs as a side hustle, which is, by the way, all alongside his studies. He's not allowed to do this because his visa just does not permit it. Well, because the insults and the threats continued, I reported his Airbnbs to the German authorities. The city has a platform to report illegal Airbnbs, and it was easy since all 6 of his listings were visible on his Airbnb profile. I also reported him to the German finance authorities as they investigate untaxed business activity. And finally, I sent all the screenshots over to the police. I also knew that his visa was all the way until 2026, which means he's gonna have a lot of fun explaining to them exactly why he wasn't studying. Okay, this is one of those situations where it's like, dude, they absolutely shot themselves in the foot. First of all, if you're running illegal Airbnb businesses, you are bound to get in trouble. Like, you really are gambling your future, especially if you're there on a visa, dude. Why would you risk it? Why not just study and like get your stuff done? There's no reason to try and run a scam. Like, what are you thinking? It's also really disheartening that he tried to be like, oh, if you don't do this, you're gonna be in trouble. You're gonna have to pay extra, while also throwing out these insults. It's like, dude, what are you thinking? This is so stupid. So I'm really glad that the original poster reported them, and I hope they get in trouble, because this guy was completely out of line and he had no business doing this in the first place. My parents revealed to my brother and his girlfriend that we were initially planning on not inviting his girlfriend to our wedding simply because she's been very rude to me and my family. And despite the fact that we changed our mind and invited her anyways, my parents decided to tell them the truth, putting me and my fiance in a situation that we truly never asked for. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been together for about 6 years. My brother and his girlfriend, who I will call Sophia for the sake of the story, have been together as a couple for about 2 years. My fiance and I are getting married next week, and we've had conversations about not inviting Sophia to the wedding for various reasons. For starters, she's being rude to my parents, in particular my mother, and in general, she's not a very pleasant person to talk to, and she is kind of standoffish. She makes no effort with me or my fiance at getting to know us, or even spend time with us, despite multiple attempts from us to spend time with her. Also, she makes rude comments about my personality and my profession. So, following this, I approached my parents, who, by the way, had repeatedly showed their frustrations about her over months with me, and it's here that I told my parents that we wouldn't be inviting Sophia to our wedding. Following this, my parents immediately shared their concerns that this would break up the family. Now, at this point, there were approximately 18 months until the wedding, and I did not want to speak to my brother about this situation, and I wanted some time to think about it following my parents sharing their concerns. Well, weeks passed by, and my fiance and I decided that we would invite Sophia to the wedding, as it simply was not worth the argument. I then told my parents about this change and left it at that. I never told my brother about this, and didn't speak to him about this either, because honestly, there was no reason to bring it up. What followed is that weeks after this, my parents drove up to my brother's and Sophia's home, which by the way, we live on opposite sides of the country from each other, and individually told both that Sophia wouldn't be invited to our wedding, and told them about frustrations that we, namely my fiance and I, had shared with my parents about Sophia. Now, I only found out about this months after, when my brother started ignoring my text messages and my calls. So I confronted my parents, and they confessed that they had told my brother and Sophia, and I'm now being painted out to be someone who's breaking up the family, as well as being told that I need to apologize to Sophia for the hurt that I've caused. Now, there is obviously a lot more to it than that, but I've tried to keep it as factual and unbiased as possible. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because this honestly is incredibly messy. Oh my gosh, this is absolutely not your fault. You literally got over it and said, okay, we're just gonna invite her. It's not that big of a deal. It's not worth the argument. Let's just do it. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. But if there is anybody in this situation who absolutely is to blame, it literally is your parents. Like, these people suck. They seriously can't keep their mouths shut, despite the fact that they also share the same frustrations. Like, they're the ones that feel the exact same way about Sophia, but they're now painting it like, oh, you two have absolutely got to apologize. I can't believe you would say these things about Sophia. You know, the things that you didn't want to be shared in the first place. Like, holy crap, why did they stir the pot like that? That is so inappropriate. If they just kept their mouths shut, none of this would have happened in the first place. So for them to pretend like you've caused this horrible hurt in the family, when they're literally the ones that did it, is just so crazy in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk. You literally invited Sophia, you decided not to put up with any kind of garbage that would come from not inviting her, and you let it go and moved on. And if there's any fallout about them finding out the truth, then that's on your parents and not you. Because this was already taken care of, and these people decided to make it way worse. My parents expect way too much out of me after I moved back in when I fell on hard times, as they demanded that I not only pay rent, but also clean and take care of literally everything else in the house. But thankfully, I've got my own place now, so I can finally get out of there and not look back. Here's how it all happened. Okay, I'm just honestly beyond frustrated and unhappy, and I mainly just need to get some things off my chest. For starters, I had to move home unexpectedly and temporarily, and when I got in the house, my parents asked me to pay rent, as well as take care of like a majority of the household chores and their animals. In my perspective, if I'm paying rent, I'm a tenant. I treat the situation as roommates, and I clean up after myself, and I buy my own groceries, etc. They said there are no expectations, yet they complain and act passive-aggressive towards me if something isn't done to their liking. They say that I don't do anything and that it's a problem, but even though I do pitch in, it's still not enough. It's uncomfortable to be around people that treat you like that, not to mention make you feel unwelcome. I don't know if they think that because I'm their child, that they're somehow entitled to a live-in maid. I work full-time and I'm attending college. That's definitely just not gonna happen. Not to mention that they literally make well over 6 figures and they are very comfortable in life. So it just feels like a bit of greed, especially when I'm struggling a bit right now. I'm only home for like a couple of months just to get back on my feet. They've never even rent the room that I'm staying in out. So it's not like they're missing out on any profit. Well, needless to say, I got my own place and I'm leaving in about a month because this situation is not worth the mental stress and the headache. Okay, I'm so glad the original poster did that because that would have been my suggestion. Holy crap, your family sounds super entitled. They expect you to pay rent and then literally just do everything around the house. Like, what is happening right now? It feels like one of those family dynamics where it's like, oh, you can move in with us, but if you're going to move in with us, prepare to be our slave. And it's like, dude, what are we talking about? No, I don't want to do that. I just need to get back on my feet. I can't handle this kind of stress and like be expected to do everything. So yeah, getting your own place was like the best decision you could possibly make. I'm planning on doing an Irish goodbye to my boyfriend, where I secretly move out and break up with him all in the same day. But despite the fact that he's treated me terribly and said so many awful things, I'm stuck in a tricky situation where I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna handle the dog we bought. Because technically my boyfriend owns him, even though I'm the one that takes care of it. As this dog means the world to me and I really want to take him with me, putting me in a situation where truly I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm planning to break up with my boyfriend and move out in about 3 weeks. I haven't told him yet because he has a temper and has threatened to kick me out before without reason. My plan is to move out all my stuff and then tell him that I've left. Now, for reference, I'm a 22-year-old female and my boyfriend is 32 years old. And yes, we live in his house. And before you say anything about the age gap, yeah, I know, I feel really stupid. There are lots of reasons why I'm leaving him. For starters, he has anger issues and calls me terrible names. Also, the lies, the cheating, and gaslighting just honestly give me constant anxiety. After almost 2 years of being together, I finally found a place to move to. A whole upstairs suite with a backyard, 2 rooms, a living room, a bathroom, and a kitchen all to myself, plus they allow dogs. And I've got to say, the moment I sent the deposit, I felt instant relief. The tricky part is our dog by the name of Doodle. Technically, he paid for the dog and I got to pick him up, but I'm the primary caregiver. I trained him, I woke up every night when he cried as a puppy. Meanwhile, my boyfriend did nothing. I take him to classes and I take him to get groomed, and I provide for all of his care and supplies, not to mention his foods, treats, and just taking him for walks. I work from home and that was the reason we got him in the first place. The dog is very attached to me and I am very attached to him, unlike my boyfriend who barely does anything to care for him other than filling his food and water. My boyfriend has even threatened the dog before, once even saying that he might take him to the shelter and that we would need to break up so that I can take him, and has even made other like violent comments about the dog. He also works a lot and isn't home regularly. His parents, who used to take care of his old dog years ago, can't take full responsibility for the dog now, as they have 2 new grandchildren they take care of. I haven't asked him if I can take the dog, or even told him that I'm moving out in 2 weeks. And this is because, of course, he has anger issues. He's threatened to kick me out once before for no reason, and I'm afraid he might refuse, take the dog elsewhere, or just react really badly. I'm also worried about being unfair for taking the dog without asking and leaving without any notice or explanation. I'm thinking about either writing a text or leaving a note. Most people I've talked to say that I'd be the better option for the dog, as I would give it more time and care, and it would be in a safe environment. Because right now I'm very confused and I don't know what to do. Okay, everybody in the comment section pretty much says the same thing, because in my opinion, if this guy is literally this violent and angry all the time, then leaving without saying anything is absolutely okay. Like seriously, get your stuff and get out of there. I say the sooner the better. But when it comes to the dog, the original poster has clarified that yeah, the boyfriend is listed as the owner at the vet. So if you take the dog, I really just don't know what's gonna happen from there. I'm not sure if he's gonna retaliate in some way or like try to take you to court for stealing it, but it's pretty obvious that this dog is absolutely yours. Like you are the one that raised it, you deserve that dog, and he would be much better off with you than with this guy. So regardless, I think you really need to be careful in the way you're leaving this guy. It would be nice to just leave a note or say nothing and be like, I'm gone, see ya, we're breaking up. But in the middle of all of this, you've got this dog that belongs to your boyfriend technically, and I'm willing to bet this guy sounds petty enough where he might just try to take you to court for taking the dog simply because he's a massive jerk. Like I can absolutely see that happening. I know for me, my first option is always like just having an honest conversation where it's like, look, we're not not happy with each other. It's better this way that we break up and move in different directions, but I want to take this dog. You don't even like it. Here's the papers where you can sign over the dog to me and we can just move forward and there's no problems. Like, I wonder if there's some kind of legwork you can do on your end where all he has to do is like sign over the dog and then you're done and that's it. Or something like that, because obviously this dog means a lot to you and you don't want to just give him up. But regardless, I hope this all works out for you, especially for the sake of that dog, because this is a messy situation and you definitely do not deserve this. My roommate keeps bringing guests over who basically live here and are using everything in the house, including my groceries. But now I'm honestly at a point where I cannot afford this any longer, and I seriously don't know how to address it because my roommate refuses to listen. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I don't know when having friends over quietly turned into housing unpaid roommates, but honestly, that's where we're at right now. My roommate started having her boyfriend and friends over a lot a few months ago. At first, it was fine. A night here, a weekend there, whatever. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be dramatic or controlling, but over time, it stopped feeling occasional and started feeling constant. They're here all the time now. They're cooking meals, they're taking long showers, they're doing laundry, charging devices, hanging out in the living room like it's their place. Like, I'll go make food and realize that half the groceries I bought are completely gone. The trash fills up twice as fast, utilities keep creeping up, and somehow I'm the only one restocking toilet paper and paper towels. What makes it worse is that none of this gets acknowledged. There's no offer to chip in, no thing where they're saying, hey, thanks for letting them stay so much. Just an unspoken assumption that shared space means unlimited access for whoever she invites. When I finally brought it up gently, she brushed it off and said it's not a big deal, and that it all evens out, but it doesn't. I'm already trying to be careful with money. Rent is high, bills are fluctuating, and I'm actively trying to keep my finances stable and rebuild my credit. I'm also watching costs go up because people who don't live here are just literally using everything, and it's so incredibly frustrating. I don't want to be the bad guy or police who comes over, but I also don't think it's unreasonable to expect shared resources to be respected. So at what point does having guests cross into unfair territory? And how do you bring this up without turning the apartment into a hostile place? I'm honestly starting to feel like I'm paying extra just to host people I didn't invite, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I am right there with the original poster. Like, I don't care who you bring over. But for me, here's where the hard line is. If they stay over for more than a week, or if they start eating all of my stuff, then we're gonna have problems. Like, dude, at that point, you're not only gonna start paying rent, but you're also absolutely gonna be reimbursing me for my groceries. Like, are you kidding me right now? There's no way I would ever put up with that. And this isn't even mentioning the utilities increasing. Like, these people must be over all the time. Like, what is going on right now? So yeah, this is a big deal, and your roommate is absolutely being selfish. There's no excuse for this kind of behavior. They're ignoring your concerns and putting you in a weird position. So yeah, this is completely reasonable to be pissed off about this, and honestly, I would be livid if I had to pay more for people I didn't even want there. And the fact that your roommate's not listening to you is incredibly toxic. My entitled manager made fun of me and my friend and constantly put us in shifts that we didn't want to do at the age of 15 years old. But after enduring their mistreatment for so long, we decided to get some petty revenge by showing up to work one weekend and doing absolutely nothing, forcing them to close down their pizza place for 2 days as a result. And I've honestly never been more satisfied about getting back at my boss because they treated us like garbage and they absolutely deserved it. Here's what happened. When I was 15 years old, I worked at a very popular pizza place in Canada. It was run and managed by a couple college kids that thought they were big stuff running a pizza joint. And it's like, ooh, congratulations. I was in between work and didn't want to work a fast food place, but my first choice of the local arena fell through because I had to be 16 to work with certain chemicals and stuff they had for the pool. And so because that was months away, it was obviously a no-go. So I bit the bullet and I applied. I got the job and I was hired for working in the kitchen. And within a month, they wanted me to learn how to make the dough. Now, I wasn't for it because that meant I'd have to come in every weekend at 6 o'clock in the morning to have dough ready for when they open at noon. I said fine, I'd learn it, but I don't want to do it every weekend. I was just a kid. I enjoyed my weekend time and was much happier working weeknights. They assured me that I would only have to work like one weekend dough shift a month, and I said, okay, great, let's do it. They got my partner in crime, who I'll call Scott for the sake of the story, to also agree to do the same thing. Well, we both learned how to do it and we nailed it. And within 2 weeks of learning, we were back-to-back weekend shifts, meaning that I worked every Saturday and Scott worked every Sunday going forward. I went to my boss boss to talk to her about it, and she just laughed at me. She said, "Oh, well, too bad." And the entire group of them thought it was hilarious. All of the servers were in their 20s, and we were the joke of the pizza joint. And they knew that we needed jobs and that we would not quit. I then went home one Saturday, and my parents said the arena had called and wanted me to come in for another interview. So I went in, and I was told that I would be offered the job in 2 weeks, the day after my birthday. I asked if they needed anyone else, and they said yes, and I told them about my friend Scott and how he worked. Well, he said to hand in his resume and he would get it set up. So once I knew that I had this job in the bag, it was now my time to get some very petty revenge. The next Saturday, I went into work and I sat around and did absolutely nothing. I drank chocolate milk and I hung out in the booths of the restaurant twirling my thumbs. They eventually showed up for opening, and I was standing there with my apron and name tag in hand. And it was right here that I looked at them and I said, "I quit." My boss laughed and said, "Whatever, we were going to fire you anyways." Then my boss commented that if it were her, she wouldn't have even shown up at all, and screwed her over by not making any dough at all. To which she ended that delightful insight by saying, "Idiot." Well, I laughed at her and I said, "No, I didn't do that. Instead, I hung out all morning and did nothing. And oh, by the way, I also didn't make any dough. So guess what? You still have to pay me for my shift. Bye." And when I said this to her, the look on her face was absolutely golden. Now, as a result of my petty revenge, she ended up having to close the store for the day because they had no dough made. Then to top it all off, Scott repeated my quitting method the following day, and thus we worked together in the arena for the rest of high school, and we told that story fondly because my former managers were massive jerks and they absolutely had it coming. Okay, in my opinion, if you're gonna hire someone who's like 15 years old and teach them how to do a job, and they say to you, "Hey, I can't do this every weekend, I'm just a kid, I don't want to do that," and then still sign them up for practically every weekend and then laugh at them, then in my opinion, any kind of bad karma coming your way is absolutely deserved. Dude, there's no excuse for being a manager and owning a place like this, and then treating your employees like garbage. Like seriously, they can absolutely destroy your business. Why not treat them with respect and be like, "Oh, I totally understand. I'm gonna stay true to my word and not treat you like garbage." Like that is not that hard. You literally just have to treat people with respect. So in my opinion, I think this petty revenge was absolutely deserved. These people were nasty towards you and were talking crap about you and making fun of you. And like that would be more than enough for me to be like, "Oh cool, I'm gonna make your life miserable for 2 days." Because if you mess around, you're absolutely gonna find out. Especially when it comes from the people who are literally keeping your lights on. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not picking up my friend's girlfriend after her tennis class, despite the fact that I was already home and didn't want to leave? Because right now, my friend is blaming me for her having to wait like 2 hours until he could pick her up. And at this point, I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I have a very strict rule in my life. After I put my work clothes in the laundry basket, take a shower, and put on my sweat clothes, the day is over for me. It means I won't leave my house again until the next day when I put my work clothes on again in the morning. I generally dine at around 6 o'clock p.m. and take a shower by 7 o'clock. So 7 o'clock p.m. is usually when my day ends, and all of my friends absolutely know this. However, sometimes in case of emergency, I will put my work clothes on again and leave my home, and even leave my home in my sweat clothes if there isn't enough time. I absolutely hate going outside in my sweat clothes, but I will still do it when absolutely necessary. Last Thursday, shortly after 7 o'clock p.m., my friend called me up. He asked me to pick up his girlfriend at 8 o'clock from her tennis class and drive her home. I asked him why he couldn't do it himself, and he said he promised he would drive her home the day before, but the boss decided to force him to stay longer at work, which, if I'm willing to guess, is probably because he got caught slacking off on duty again. I told him I was already in my sweat clothes, but he still insisted, so I refused since that really just didn't seem like an emergency to me. Well, at almost 11 o'clock p.m., he knocked on my door to tell me that his girlfriend had to wait like 2 hours until he managed to leave work and pick her up. I asked him why she didn't call an Uber, and he said she didn't have the Uber app, but to me that seems like a her problem and not a me problem. And while he and his girlfriend had a big argument, they didn't break up. Maybe if she had broken a leg or something, I would have considered it an emergency, but waiting for 2 hours in a rainless, mild summer evening is absolutely nothing. The weather last Thursday evening was mild, and when I was a kid, I would often wait for like 2 hours after school for my father to pick me up, and sometimes the temperature was really cold. Sometimes I had to stand there in the cold or the rain or the snow, and it was miserable. So with all that in mind, am I the jerk for not picking up my friend's girlfriend? Because right now he is still really pissed off. Okay, honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk because this really is a silly thing to ask of someone. You're not the only person that this guy can call and be like, hey, can you pick up my girlfriend? So for him to act like, wow, she had to wait 2 hours because of you, it's like, no, sorry, that's not my problem. I can't make it, I'm not doing it, sorry, I'm staying home. And this is not you being selfish, but instead, it's you literally having boundaries. The lady was not in any danger, she just had to wait a little bit while her boyfriend got off work, so for her to have to wait for her boyfriend to get off work is just really silly to me. If it matters that much, then just find another ride home. Like, she couldn't have asked somebody at her tennis class to give her a ride home or something like that. Like, honestly, this feels really stupid and it's almost like they're trying to blame you for their poor planning. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, this just doesn't fall on your shoulders at all. Am I overreacting for being upset after my boyfriend told me that he's not attracted to me? Because right now I'm kind of devastated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. So my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 months. We have had a wonderfully healthy relationship full of communication. We are both divorcees and have really learned a lot, and we are actively applying it. Now, I have felt that something was off lately, and last night, the conversation naturally came up and I asked him, hey, do you find me attractive? His answer is that no, he does not find me attractive biologically. He's attracted to skinny girls. Now, I've never been skinny, but I've always felt I was healthy and not obese. I am heavier right now, but I'm working to address that. My body mass index is still within a normal range, but this has just thrown me for a loop and has me questioning everything, including how I see myself. He insists that he loves and cares for me deeply and that I have all the qualities that he is looking for. He admits that he has been unhealthily influenced by society on what a woman should look like, and that his disgust is a biological response that is separate from all the other parts and how he feels about me. For context, he is carrying a little bit of weight himself, just like me, and acknowledges the hypocrisy. I hear what he is saying, but I'm absolutely devastated. I'm embarrassed and honestly mortified. So am I crazy? Is this a hard truth I need to understand? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, the second someone says, hey, I don't find you attractive, sorry about that. I'm disgusted by you on a societal standard, sorry about that. Like, if someone said that to me, I would be like, oh, cool, yeah, we're breaking up. I'm not gonna stay with you. Because this is some garbage. Your boyfriend is a massive hypocrite, and the way he's acting is completely unfair for you. You deserve to be with someone who appreciates you and loves you for all of you, not someone who's gonna sit there and be like, well, I don't really find you attractive. You check a lot of boxes, but you're just not very pretty. Like, dude, then why are you with her if you don't find her attractive? What's going on right now? So no, you're not overreacting by being upset about this. I would be so pissed off if someone said that to me, because you deserve a partner who cares about you and actually finds you attractive, not this guy who's sitting there after 6 months by saying, well, society says that I shouldn't like you, so that's how I feel, because that is so idiotic and incredibly insensitive. A crazy homeless man tried to crash a wedding party that I was working security for, forcing me to chase this guy off by literally saying I was going to have him trespass if he didn't get lost. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I work security doing staff escorts, building lockups, alarm response, and inspections of facilities that have been hired. For the most part, the job is uneventful, with people not paying attention to the time and running long with their booking. Every once in a while, though, I come across people who literally, if it were not for my training and reluctance to use violence, I feel an almost overpowering urge to give them a thick ear. Now, tonight was supposed to be simple. A wedding reception was being held in the hall of the local library I secure every night at the same time. I enter through the usual way. I conduct the usual checks of the toilets, which will be important later on, just to make sure no one was trying to remain after hours, and proceed with my usual routine. It is by the last door I need to check that I found tonight's thorn in my proverbial paw. Sitting by one of the automatic exits, now locked, which many council buildings are smart doors capable of locking themselves, I find this person with their phone plugged into a charger, doing his best to ignore me when I told him the building was closed. Apparently, leaving was not on his to-do list for the night, as he just sat there, flicking through his phone while trying to tell me that he was waiting for a friend in the toilet, which, if you remember, I had checked there, and I found none but a wedding guest. Now, I thought I would give him the benefit of the doubt, and I checked the toilets again. There was a slim chance that someone had gone into them in the few minutes after I checked, and frankly, it would have been bad on the paperwork if I had simply assumed that he was lying. Well, to my complete and utter lack of surprise, there was no one there. Returning to the man, I told him I didn't appreciate being lied to, and again, I asked him to leave. Well, naturally, his story changed. His friend was upstairs, and I should go and find him. Now, do you remember those smart buildings I mentioned? That applies to doors inside the building as well as outside. There are only 4 ways into the upper level: through an elevator that after hours requires a pass card to activate, a door at the top of some stairs that could also be opened with a card, or someone opening the door from the upper level level and through the fire escapes that required a key to unlock. Knowing this, I called him out for another obvious lie, at which point the story changed again to his friend being a part of the wedding party. Now again, pursuing due diligence, I asked one of the guests if they knew the man, and while they didn't, they were kind enough to alert the bride, who confirmed that the man was unknown to her. Determined to remain civil one last time, I approached him and again I told him to leave, but with no apparent effect. Being totally fed up by this point, I pulled his phone charger and I threw it out the automatic doors to which he was seated. And yeah, that finally got his attention, as he stood up and tried to intimidate me with his height and claiming that I had just assaulted him. Knowing that I had not touched him for a second, I called his bluff and I opened the automatic doors, through which he finally left. He tried goading me into doing something stupid like going out there and fighting him, but I knew better than to stoop to his level. He also lost interest when I pointed out that there were cameras all over the area, and they would clearly show I had not touched him, and any fight would start with him being the instigator. Seeing that I wasn't going to give him what he wanted, he walked off around the corner of the building. Now this is where I was just a little bit stupid. I saw him staring at the cars parked next to the building, and thinking that he might be trying to work out which one was mine to damage it, I opened the door to monitor him from a distance. Well, it appears that is exactly what he was waiting for, as he quickly strolled back into the building, ignoring me once more when I repeatedly yelled at him to leave. He sauntered through the building's public area and left via the doors on the other side. As he left, I told the other wedding guests gathered on that side that this guy had been warned he was trespassing 4 times, and if he returned, they need to call the police straight away. And being from Australia, I was quickly informed that if he did return, they would happily thump him in the head. But thankfully, as far as I know, that's the extent of the incident. I've made a report and I will request that if he can be identified via the cameras, that really were there by the way, that he should be banned from the building, hopefully ensuring that I never have to deal with that jerk ever again. Because dealing with this guy was a mess, and honestly, it was just an interruption to this wedding. Okay, I can say this straight up, I don't think I could ever work security. Confrontation in this way can almost definitely lead to like some kind of physical altercation, and that just sounds really scary. I don't know about you. Like, people are crazy out there, dude. You don't know if he had like a weapon on him or anything like that. That would really freak me out, and I just don't think I could handle that for a second. So clearly the original poster is like a beast and able to handle some really stressful situations, because this is definitely one I would not be able to handle. My boyfriend keeps pushing me to job hunt all day after I lost my job, and I'm honestly wondering if this is a fair thing for him to do, or if this is kind of toxic, because with all the pressure I'm under both in my family life and in my work life, I'm kind of at a point where I'm starting to crack at the seams and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I are 26 years old and we've been officially together for 2 years. When we first got close, it felt like our goals aligned. He talked a lot about wanting to travel, find a remote job, and possibly move to or even study in Europe. He's a programmer, I'm a designer, and we worked at the same company. Now, I've got to be honest, the idea of moving abroad alone felt really scary to me, so having a partner with similar plans felt important and gave me a sense of stability. The problem is that over the past 2 years, most of these plans have remained just words. During this time, I found a higher paying remote job, I started saving money, and separately saved up for renovating an apartment that I bought together with my mom and sister. He also talked a lot about big goals, changing jobs and buying a new apartment with his parents, but I haven't seen any real progress. I really want to move forward in life, and I want to do it with him, but it often feels like I'm moving while he's standing still. I planned a short trip abroad for the New Year holidays because I was extremely burned out from work and wanted to rest during my official New Year vacation. My boyfriend also decided to come with me, and we each paid for ourselves for both the flights and accommodations. And by the way, all of this was planned before I knew I was going to lose my job. In early December this year, I was told that my contract would not be renewed, and I was informed only 3 days before it ended, even though it was originally supposed to be extended. For the past 2 weeks, I've been trying to find a remote job with the same salary, but due to hiring formalities beyond my control, I'm not being considered for many roles. Because of that, I want to accept a job offer in my city. It's a hybrid position, not fully remote, with a lower salary, which is typical for the market in my country. The online job market I'm targeting is weak right now, and it's important to me to have a stable income at least until the active hiring season begins. Now, I don't rely on my boyfriend financially, and I've always supported myself. In fact, he only offered to temporarily help with a loan for the trip until I find a job. I actually had the money for the trip, but I opted for the installment plan so I could pay for it gradually. At the same time, he has repeatedly said that I'm not trying hard enough to find a job, that I should be job hunting every day from 9 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock p.m., and that I should only consider remote positions. He considers this hybrid job not really suitable, even though right now financial stability matters more to me than ideal conditions. I originally wanted a remote job because it pays more and I don't like going to the office, but right now I need the income, so I'm willing to compromise. Over the past month, I've been feeling severe burnout from work. I'm also planning renovations after New Year's, while also carrying significant financial responsibility. I pay rent for the apartment where I live with my mom, as she's currently not working, and I cover groceries. At the moment, I simply don't have the energy to spend entire days actively job hunting, especially in a slow market. Recently, we had an argument, which wasn't really a harsh one, but afterwards, I was left feeling pressured, misunderstood, and that my efforts were being devalued rather than supported. I told him that I'm making this decision out of necessity right now, and that his advice to job hunt all day and his comments that this company isn't right for me are putting pressure on me and making me feel even worse. I also told him it feels strange to hear this from him specifically, from someone who has been trying to change jobs for the second or third year, but hasn't taken concrete steps to do so. After that, he said something like, "Do whatever you want. If you want to accept the offer, accept it. If not, then don't do it. I won't give any advice anymore." He also said that he only wants to leave his job for a better company and not just any job. But I can't help wondering how, over like 2 or 3 years, there wasn't a single better opportunity. He insists that he wasn't pressuring me, that he was just expressing his opinion, and that the decision is mine. He also said that I left my previous job because I wanted to work remotely and not depend on an office, but times and circumstances definitely change. So with all that in mind, am I overreacting by feeling this upset? And how can I tell the difference between a temporary difficult period or even just deeper incompatibility? What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, it seems like your boyfriend has like the best interest in mind, like he really does want you to find like the best job for yourself, but the way he's pressuring you, in my opinion, seems very tone deaf. Like this guy really doesn't see the fact that you have a lot going on. You have a lot on your plate, not to mention the fact that I kind of agree with you. It's probably better just to find something instead of sitting there being like, okay, well maybe I'll wait for the right job. Why not take something now and make some kind of money instead of looking around for the perfect job that might not even be there? So hopefully this works out, because I think the way your boyfriend's going about this is a little bit too aggressive, and I think it might be time for him to like pump the brakes. Am I the jerk for telling my grandpa that he doesn't get calls from his grandkids because he is a bully? Because after he tried to kick me out of his house all because I was talking too much, even going as far as saying he'll call the police on me if I don't leave, I'm honestly just at a point where I'm sick of this and I don't want to try and sugarcoat it anymore. But at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So yesterday, I was at my grandpa's house. My grandfather and my grandma got new phones and were trying to set them up with my help. He called customer support and my grandma was trying to increase the font on her phone and the customer service rep was guiding us. Well, as we were working on our phones, my grandpa got really agitated. My grandma was trying to ask questions to the representative, and several times my grandpa shushed her. Now, I noticed, but I didn't think it was a big deal, and I was just showing my grandma the settings on the phone and how big I could make my font. My grandpa then leaned over and said, "Shut up." And I said to him, "No." He then said, "I'm telling you to be quiet." And I said to him, "No," again. He then suddenly stood up and took his jacket off and said to me, "Get out of my house." And again, I sat there and I said, "No." Then at this point, he said he was going to call the police, and I just said, "Fine, go ahead." My grandma then grabbed my arm and told me to stay with her at the house too. He was then suddenly yelling at me, but I told him he was mean and a bully, and that's why none of his grandchildren call him. Well, he told my family about this, and my aunt texted me saying that I need to apologize. But honestly, I can't do it because what I said was true. The other grandkids don't like him, and he doesn't have a lot of respect. His whole life, he would go into these rage sessions, and in fact, in my late teens when I stayed with him, even though I don't currently, he kicked me out twice, once for breaking curfew, even though I didn't have a key and he refused to give me one, and the other time was for something I don't even remember. My younger brother, when he turned 18, stayed with him for maybe 2 months, and then he got kicked out for not talking to him enough. My older sister lasted maybe 4 months, then he flew in a rage and kicked her out too. But seriously, he goes through these moments where he's disappointed nobody talks to him because he has a lot of wisdom to impart, and everyone apparently is missing their opportunity to know him. He'll ask about my siblings, and I started to say, well, do you need their numbers? Because he wants information, but my siblings don't want to tell him anything. But regardless, he still says, well, I'm the grandfather. I need to know. They need to call me. So seriously, am I the jerk for telling the truth to my grandfather? Because right now, I'm not sure what to do. Okay, first of all, this guy escalated so fast, it's not even funny. He went from, you need to be quiet, you need to shut up, all the way to, I'm gonna call the cops if you don't get out. Like, what is going on right now? Dude, chill out. No wonder your grandma's like, hey, you need to stay here, don't leave the house. Because I bet this guy is physically mistreating pretty much anybody who gets within arm's length in private. Like, that's some crazy behavior, so with that in mind, no, you're not the jerk here. This guy needs to know the truth, and I'm sure he does know the truth. Because holy crap, it is a choice to act like that. I don't care how miserable your life is, there's no reason to take it out on other people. So no, you're not the jerk. This guy definitely deserved a little slice of humble pie, and the fact that he still can't understand why no one's gonna call him is honestly the most telling sign you need to see. My husband confessed to me that he had an affair with my son's ex-girlfriend. And now, after finding out that she's pregnant and he might be the father, I feel as if my entire world has suddenly come to a standstill. And at this point, I truly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. For starters, all names in this story are fake. A few days ago, my husband of 19 years came to me telling me that he wanted us to sit down and talk, as he needed to come clean that he had been having an affair for the past 6 months. He arranged with his mother to have the kids for the night, and she would get them to school in the morning so we could talk in private. We had arranged this with her in the day while I was at work, and when I arrived home at around 6:45 p.m., he was sat in the living room alone waiting and was looking very nervous and quite frankly ill. I was immediately concerned for him and asking where the children were. He couldn't meet my gaze, but instead reached out for my hands, sat me down again, and quietly announced that he was sorry, and he never meant for this to happen, but he had cheated on me. Now, I had no idea how to react. I was still concerned why no one else was home, as they all should have been home hours ago, because normally they get back at around 4:00 p.m., and no one had messaged me asking if they could go and be with friends or something like that. He started to ramble on, I think, trying to explain himself, as if there was any explanation for cheating, but let me tell you something, I wasn't paying attention, because instead I was demanding he tell me where our children were, and eventually he told me that his mother was looking after them for the night. He asked me to calm down and let him explain himself, and I will admit, I snapped when he said this. Like, how can you even expect me to calm down when he just admitted to breaking our vows? Like, what is there to explain? If he wanted a divorce, he should have just asked for one months ago. He started to get upset, begging me to please calm down and just let him talk, because apparently he didn't choose this, but there's more to the story. I was so full of emotions, I walked outside and I sat in my car, and he followed me to the door crying and begging me to listen and please don't go. I sat in my car for I don't know how long, just sobbing and thinking about our marriage, our children, and what's gonna happen now. Does this mean we're getting a divorce? Do we go through couples counseling? Can I ever forgive him? But the biggest question is why? Why did he cheat? Also, who is she? Why is she better than me? Why is this woman more important than the life that we built together over the last 22 years? After maybe an hour of spiraling and crying, I was ready to hear him out and ask my questions. So I knocked on the door and he opened up. He reached for my hand and we sat down again, and he tried to lead me upstairs to our bedroom, but I said absolutely not. We're talking this through downstairs now, or he can leave for tonight. Now, I really didn't know what to expect from what he wanted to tell me. I didn't care for the apologies or the excuses, but he began by saying that the affair had started 6 months ago, but it had just been secret messaging and nothing flirtatious from his side of things. But then things escalated, where she became more bodily flirtatious, and during a night I was working away, they spent the night together for the first time, if you know what I mean. And that was supposedly 4 months ago. And while he hasn't admitted it, I'm kind of convinced they've been doing this on the regular. I asked why he did this and also so many other questions, and I didn't even give him time to answer, as I began to literally spiral all over again. He then said it was Emily, which is a name that didn't mean anything to me. I half laughed and said, okay, am I supposed to know who that is? But then he said it's James's Emily. For reference, James is our 18-year-old son, and Emily is his ex-girlfriend of 2 months ago. Now, I was so angry in that moment, I shouted for him to get out. I didn't want him anywhere near me. I couldn't stand to look at him or listen to what he had to say next, or how he would try and excuse not only an affair, but with our son's ex-girlfriend, who he was still broken up about. For context, she had broken up with him about 2 months prior, which had him very upset, as they'd had a sensible and very positive relationship for over a year. She was fully welcomed into our home, and I was quite fond of her. I mean, the whole family had been sad to hear they had broken up, and his younger siblings were even saying how they missed her coming around. Like, this is all just so much to think about, and it's honestly just so hard to get my mind around this. Now, my husband husband told me that the reason he was coming clean to me now was that Emily had confided in him 2 weeks ago that she was pregnant but was unsure as to who the father is. She said it could be either him or James. He then told me that he hadn't planned or wanted any of this. He didn't initiate the relationship, and he tried to not get close with her, but he wasn't strong enough mentally and it just happened. Well, upon hearing that, I got up and I left. I just couldn't stay there listening to him any longer. I drove 30 minutes away and I checked into a hotel for the night, turning my phone off completely. I then went into work as normal the next day, returning home to the kids out once again, and him waiting by the door, eyes red, begging me to talk to him. But I didn't have the energy to talk or argue. I just walked up to our room and I laid in our bed as he was begging and crying to me again. Now, I need to say, I'm not delusional enough to believe anything he says regarding how it was all her initiating the flirting. Like, she's only 19 years old, and he's more than twice her age. He didn't act alone in this, but also he's trying to place all the blame on a teenager, and quite frankly, that's pathetic and it makes me sick. It has been a few days since and nothing has resolved, and things are back to normal for the sake of our children. James doesn't know about the affair or possible pregnancy. They're all back home, and I'm trying to make things appear as normal as possible just until Christmas is out of the way. I don't want this affair mess to ruin what should have been a joyful time of year. I've hardly spoken to my husband ever since then, except for when the children are around. Having to share a bed with him disgusts me. He's tried to cuddle me and get me to kiss him in front of the children, but I feel so much animosity towards him. I fear that my depression that I struggle with as a teenager will come back as well. I just want to cry everywhere because my heart is broken, not just for myself, but for our family. I know James needs to know, and sooner is better, but I do not know that I can be there for the both of us right now. So seriously, how do I even try to figure this out? When is the right time to tell James? I know it's silly to think that we could keep this secret until Christmas is over, but I don't have any idea where to start. It just feels like the worst time for all of this. I don't know how I feel regarding everything I know, and I'm nowhere near finding a solution or thinking of next steps. I'm mostly concerned for James and the fallout this will have between him and his father and our other two children, because right now this is so messy that I just don't know what to do. Okay, if I'm being completely honest, I'm totally speechless and I don't know what to say because this is crazy. This is literally crazy in like the most literal sense. I don't even know what to say. This is so terrible. First off, to the original poster, I am so sorry you're stuck in the middle of this. This is quite literally a nightmare. Like, I would be in absolute agony if this happened to me. So I can only imagine what your waking every single day moment must be right now. Like, holy crap, this is so bad and I'm so sorry you're going through this. I don't really have much to say in terms of like, this is what you should or shouldn't do because this is a very sketchy situation. Like, there are so many moving parts and like life-changing things that might happen. And in that regard, there's no way I'm going to chime in on something that could literally change your life. But I will say from my perspective, it seems like you're doing everything you can to keep it together. And that's got to be like the hardest thing in the world, just to sit there and try to keep a happy face for your kids and make sure they don't feel any kind of pressure during the Christmas season. So on that end, man, I'm sending you all the good vibes possible. This really, really sucks. But regardless, I hope this all works out for you in your favor. And I really hope you're able to find like the best solution possible for you and your kids, because your husband absolutely betrayed you. Like, there's no question about that. And you and your family definitely deserve the best. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My classmate literally tries to impress our teacher way too much, going above and beyond what's necessary just to try and like look cool. But today, thankfully, things backfired on her in a way that I'm sure she will never forget. And honestly, it was well deserved after she literally tried to speak for the entire class. Here's what happened. So back when I was in high school in like the 10th grade, I had a classmate who was always trying to stay on the teacher's good side. Front row every single day, nodding along, backing up everything the teacher said, even when it didn't really make sense. One afternoon near the end of the class, the teacher mentioned they were thinking about giving us a little more time for the next assignment since everyone had other deadlines piling up. Before anyone else could even react to this comment, this classmate jumped in and said the deadline was fine and we didn't need extra time. When they did this, the room got quiet. The teacher looked around for a second and then just said, "All right," and then moved on. Meanwhile, my classmate looked pretty satisfied, like she had said the right thing for brownie points. Well, later that day, the teacher emailed the class saying everyone would get an extension because of workload from other subjects except for the one teacher's pet. She then emailed asking about it, and the teacher replied that he was keeping her to the deadline she supported in class. No drama, just that. Now, I don't think she meant to try and like screw anyone over, but speaking for the whole class to impress the teacher was wild. But watching it quietly backfire was honestly even wilder. Okay, I love this so much because honestly, I cannot stand the teacher's pet. They're annoying. They're always trying to like look good for some dumb reason, so they can earn these imaginary brownie points that nobody's keeping track of except for them. So for them to be like, oh yeah, that deadline's fine. We don't need extra time. It's fine exactly the way it is. Like, dude, shut up. Why are you trying to talk for all of us? That's so dumb. So honestly, I'm glad the teacher had like a brain and decided, okay, this is going to backfire on them and not the rest of the students who clearly don't want this. Because I know as a regular student, this would be super frustrating for me, as dealing with a classmate like this would be incredibly annoying. Today, an entitled worker at a game store literally caught an attitude with me after I asked a simple question, as she explained that my question could be answered through Google. And now I'm trying to get in contact with the store manager to complain about this lady because my experience was so negative, and I'm honestly not sure if I'm overreacting or not because this was really upsetting. Here's what happened. Okay, so I went to a local video game store looking for a game for my dad. I knew the one that I wanted, and in fact, I found it on the shelf. They had one copy on sale for $25 for the previous console generation, and one copy for $69 in the new console. I couldn't remember if my dad got himself the new console, but I knew he had the old one at one point. So I'm thinking that if the new console is backwards compatible, I can just get him the $25 version and save myself some money. And if not, then well, this is still the game he wants and I'll just spend the $69 if I have to. It's not busy despite it being the Saturday before Christmas, so I don't feel bad popping up to the counter to ask whether the new console is backwards compatible. A very nice younger guy is standing there ready for me, and I get the impression that he's new, so let's just call him new guy for the sake of the story. I say to him, hi there, can you tell me, do you know if the new console is backwards compatible? I then show him the game. I'm just wondering if I can get away with buying this one since I'm not sure if my dad has the new console or not. The new guy frowns and says, sorry, I'm not really sure about that. But I just say to him, no worries, it's fine. Behind him, a girl comes behind the counter and starts opening what I assume to be a new shipment. He then turns to her and asks her my question. She doesn't look up, but her tone is extremely smarmy and condescending. She says to him, yeah, the answer to that question is on Google. If you don't know how to do that, I can show you how. And when she said that, I'm stunned and the new guy looks embarrassed. I then just say, don't worry about it. And I go put my game back and just leave. I worked retail for a long time, I get it. But I couldn't help but think about this girl's answer in an empty store with a new guy who's just trying to figure out how to do his job. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I can call the store, talk to the manager, and just let him know about my experience. Maybe they can do some additional training. I mean, who knows? So I get in my car and I call the store. The new guy answers and I politely ask to speak to the store manager. He then says that they're on the other line and then asks me if he can put me on hold. And I just say, sure, no problem. I sit on hold for 5 minutes or so, and then lo and behold, the rude girl picks up again. And when she does, I just politely say that I'm waiting for the store manager. She then responds by saying, the store manager? Well, I'm the assistant manager. I'm sure I can answer your question. I then respond back by saying, no thanks, I'm happy to wait for the store manager. She then gives out a huff and comes back with, well, there's no store manager here today. But I respond back by saying, are you sure? Because the nice guy who answered my call said that he was on the other line, which is why I'm waiting. She then lets out another huff. She says to me, there is no store manager here to talk to you. And she says it in a really snappy tone. So I just kind of give up and I tell her I'd rather just call corporate and then I just hang up. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because I honestly am not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily the wrong thing to like call the store and explain what happened. Like, I think that's completely reasonable, especially if you had a negative experience, but there are way better ways to handle this in my opinion. Because this is one of those situations where it's like, oh, okay, well, let's fight fire with fire. You want to sit there and be like, oh, I can Google that answer and you think I don't know how to use Google? Well, then congratulations, I'm gonna make you walk me through how to use Google and make you look incredibly stupid. Because seriously, her response was so rude. There's no reason for her to talk to you or anybody else like that. And the fact that she's doing that in a customer-facing position, like, good lord, that would not only make me never go back to that store and just order online like everybody else, but it's also unnecessary to get that snappy and rude. I don't care what's going on in your life, just be normal, be neutral. So no, I don't think you're overreacting, and I think you're justified in calling and complaining. Because if she's gonna be passive-aggressive and make you look stupid, well then congratulations to her. You have every right to complain about her and possibly get her in trouble. My friend rearranged my entire room while I was gone, but now she's pissed off that I don't like it, and that instead I'm annoyed that she changed all my stuff around. Because right now I really am pissed off, and I'm seriously not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my family and I went went out of town for the weekend, and my friend was house sitting for us since we have pets. She's done it before, and there were never any problems. So I trusted her to be in the house, but just not to completely take over my personal space. When I got back, I walked into my room, and my bed was pushed to a different wall, my dresser had been moved, my desk drawers were all reorganized, my clothing was rehung in a totally different order, and even my LED lights were rearranged. Literally nothing was where I left it. She left a note on my pillow that said, "Surprise! I wanted your room to feel more open and aesthetic. Hope you love it." But guess what? I didn't love it at all. My room is my safe space, and I keep things the way they are for a reason. I tried to be nice about it, and I told her that I appreciate the intention, but also it made me really uncomfortable that she went through my stuff and changed everything without asking me first. She then immediately got defensive and said that I was being ungrateful. She then kept bringing up how she spent hours fixing it and that she was just trying to help. Then she said I was too attached to objects and that I should be happy that someone cared enough to put in the effort. I tried explaining that it wasn't about how the room looked, it was the fact that she went through my personal drawers, my notebooks, accessories, literally everything. She said she didn't read anything and just moved stuff around, but that honestly didn't make me feel any better. On top of that, I can't find some of my personal items now, and she says that she has no idea what I'm talking about. So now she's upset and saying that she won't help me with anything ever again, because apparently I made her feel stupid. Some of my mutual friends think that she crossed a major boundary, while others think that I overreacted and that she was just trying to do something nice. So now I'm wondering, was I wrong for not liking the surprise, or was she completely out of line? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all because this is so weird. What possessed her to go into your room specifically just to rearrange it? This lady's either snooping through your stuff, robbing you, or she's doing some mix in between. Because literally, the fact that she moved everything around and now some stuff is missing would drive me up a wall. I don't want my stuff rearranged like that, especially if I'm not the one doing it. Dude, I don't know where anything is now. Even just looking around my room, if someone changed everything about this suddenly without giving me any kind of heads up, and then I would be like, hey, where's my charger? I would be so annoyed if it wasn't in the same spot it's usually supposed to be in. Holy crap, that would piss me off just thinking about that. Good lord, dude. So no, you're not the jerk. This was super intrusive. She rummaged through all of your stuff and rearranged it. And she's trying to sit there and be like, wow, you made me feel stupid. But it's dude, you didn't use a single brain cell to consider that maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe you were only there to I don't know, watch the house with the pets there, make sure they stay alive, and that's it. Not go through all of my stuff and rearrange it. What are you thinking? Because this is some weird behavior, and if I was in your shoes, just like what everybody in the comments section is saying, then I would never invite her back to my house ever again, and I would tell her to buzz off, because this really is such a weird thing to do. Am I the jerk for taking my kids and leaving a family Christmas party after we were literally told the wrong time to show up? Because after the fact, I'm somehow being blamed for not checking Facebook for the actual time, despite the fact that I don't have a Facebook account, and I was told a time 2 hours after the party started, putting me in a situation where I'm very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, for starters, frankly, I'm just really tired, man. We were invited to my family's Christmas party this year, and the kids were excited to see their extended family. I asked what time it started, and I was told 6 o'clock p.m. So the wife and I got the kids all dressed up and nice for the party, and I made a platter of mac and cheese to bring with us. Plus, I got some extra cups and plates and things like that. I got everything together and we headed out. We then got there about 10 minutes to 6 o'clock and walked in. And much to our surprise, everyone had eaten, they had passed out gifts, and were ready to leave. We stood there for a bit and was like, what's going on? My dad then told me they actually started everything at 4 o'clock. I then proceeded to get mad and said, you told me 6 o'clock. To which he said, you didn't look at Facebook? And it's I don't have Facebook, so I just told him no. He then proceeded to tell me that it was my fault for not looking on there. And with that, I just took the kids and left. Well, I've been getting text messages all day from family members about how I shouldn't have left and now the kids didn't get their presents. And although I haven't responded, I'm honestly wondering, am I the jerk in this situation at all? Because right now I'm still very pissed off. No, you are not the jerk. This is some stupid behavior. You mean to tell me that no one in this family reached out to you and said, hey, where's the original poster? They're not here. They're normally here. What's going on? They know for a fact you live 10 minutes away. It would not have been hard for you to show up. And someone obviously bought gifts for your kids. So it's okay, dude, why is nobody calling us and saying, hey, it actually starts at 4? And how is this your fault that you didn't check Facebook? You don't have Facebook. They would know that because they do have Facebook. So why are you at fault for not checking his social media that you don't have. This is so backwards, and if I'm being completely honest, it seems intentional. Like, I would personally confront the person who told me 6 o'clock p.m. and be like, what is your problem? Why did you tell us the wrong time intentionally? Like, what are you doing? And then hash it out right then and there, because this is unacceptable. Like, this behavior would really piss me off, and there's no good excuse. So no, you're not the jerk. Your entire family failed you. And if they really wanted to get your kids these gifts, they would have made sure to give you the right time. Because as it stands, they basically let this happen, and that is unacceptable. Am I the jerk for pretending to quit my job just to get his attention about how he's disregarding my work schedule? Because right now he's pissed off and I'm not sure if I made a mistake. Here's how it all went down. So my husband and I have been together for 7 years and married for 3. I work remotely in finances for a foreign company, so my hours are from 4 o'clock p.m. until midnight, 5 days a week. It's a good job that covers our rent and all my expenses. Also, I manage all of our family finances. The issue is that my husband and his friends constantly make dinner plans that conflict with my work, especially on Fridays, which are my busiest days, with strict deadlines and an 8 p.m. client meeting. I've explained this countless times, but they just ignore it. They could easily move things to Saturday when we're all free, but refuse to do so. And if I don't go, they guilt trip me for days. After yet another dismissive comment from my husband implying my job isn't important, I finally hit my limit. The next day, I pretended to slack off and play video games. And when he asked about it, I said that my job is so inconsequential, I decided to quit because the stress wasn't worth it. And when I said this, he freaked out. I kept up the charade, repeating that I don't get why he's upset if my job just doesn't matter, but eventually I came clean that I was lying, and now he's furious and went for a walk to cool off. Now, trust me, I get it. I know it was petty, but I'm so tired of my time being disrespected, especially after years of communicating directly to no avail. I felt I had to do something drastic to make it sink in how essential my job is, and how hurtful the constant disregard is. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think your husband and his friends are idiots in this scenario. They're literally trying to be like, oh, come on, come out to dinner on Friday. We know you've got work and you can't make it, but geez, why can't you make it? It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Just do it on Saturday and make it more convenient for your wife. You know, the person who covers rent and is practically the breadwinner of this couple. Like, what's going on right now? This is so dumb. He literally doesn't respect your work at all, but also is not paying for any of the bills and is basically living like rent-free. So it's like, which one do you want? Do you want me to go out to dinner or do you want the rent being paid? Because if you want rent paid, then I've got to work, meaning that your stupid dinner should be on Saturday instead of Friday night. Like, what's going on? This is such an easy fix, it's not even funny. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for pretending to quit. This guy clearly needed a wake-up call, and in my opinion, I think you did the right thing. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel, and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.